Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Tsunade, Kushina, Naruko and Mei, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, CAMSTR3100, link is in the description, and also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. The hospital was eerily silent in Kanahagakure no Sado, the village hidden in the leaves. Patients were sleeping, the night shift nurses attending them. The doctors were going over medical records, however 4 doctors were away from their usual posts, as a late-night call ripped them from their usual stations. Why, one may ask. Was the birth of the 4th Hokage's children. Twins to be exact. It was a special occasion for more than just the mother and father, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Minato was a 22-year-old man with spiky blonde hair with 2 bangs that framed his face, angular jaw, and piercing blue eyes. He often wore blue shinobi pants, black sandals, a blue long-sleeve undershirt with a flak jacket over it with a cloak with red flames licking the bottom, and had the kanji for the 4th Hokage on the back. Kushina was a very beautiful 20-year-old woman with long, elegant red hair with a green clip holding it back from being in front of her face close to her left temple. She had violet eyes and a cute round face that made men swoon. It was a special occasion for the father of Minato, Madara Uchiha, and half-brother of the twins going to be born, Obito Uchiha. Though Minato knew of neither's existence or their roles in his life. When Minato was born, his mother dying shortly after childbirth, after 1 year, Madara put him in an orphanage, but not before placing seals at the back of both eyes, so as to not awaken the Sharingan. Thankfully, Minato did not receive the black hair. When Minato was 15, it was a week just after his birthday that he had listened to his sensei's, Jiraiya of the Sannin, advice about practicing with the opposite gender, so that he could be at least a little experienced when he and Kushina started to date and then have X, even though the first time they had X was when she also got pregnant. The lab rat, one would say, was Mikoto Uchiha's older sister, Akira Uchiha. Akira was a loyal fangirl of Minato as to how easily she consented, and Minato had explicitly told her that this was a 1, maybe 2-time thing, yet she agreed wholeheartedly to the proposition. However, Akira had different plans, she said yes, and so the two carried it out not once, but twice, Minato falling for the same thing twice as well. After Akira had visited the doctors a few weeks later and confirmed she was pregnant, she was going to the Uchiha compound to tell her family, but she was taken by Madara for 9 months to give birth to Obito, and then another month to make a full recovery. Madara instilled a sense of duty into Akira to willingly give up Obito, but this was before placing a seal on her tongue, as an assurance she would not spill anything, as well as effectively killing any affectionate emotions Akira had for Minato. She was secretly dropped off back at the Uchiha compound, while the clan head did not ask questions, he just accepted his daughter back into the clan. And Kushina was oblivious to the whole thing. So for the past 7 years, Obito trained vigorously with Madara in the dimension or in the real world. Anyone would be surprised by the fact that a 7-year-old could be on par with a low Chunin and mid to high Chunin with his 2 Tomo Sharingan. His power would skyrocket when puberty would kick in because of the physical growth. Alright, Kushina-chan, push. Bawako, the wife of the 3rd Hokage, yelled as Minato held Kushina's hand. I am pushing. The red-hot habanero yelled back, making Minato hold back a chuckle. He looked at Kushina's heartbeat monitor to see it pulsing. She's under some pretty powerful sleeping agents, yet she's still awake. By Kami, Kushina Bawako thought, though her musings were cut short, a roar cut through the entire village's sleeping time. It was silent except for Kushina's grunts of pain, while Minato rushed over to the window to see Kyuubi walking towards the village about 5 miles out. Kyuubi, what is it doing here? Wait, this could finally give us the 1-up against Kumo we've been looking for. Minato shouted in his mind with glee, his will of fire burning furiously. Is that the Kaiu? Kushina was cut off as she experienced another shot of pain go through her system. Yes, Minato said in awe. We need Jinchuriki, but who? There's no one giving birth right now except. Minato turned to Kushina, who had their firstborn in her hands. A boy they were going to call, had he really zoned out enough to not hear her giving birth. Kushina, who started as a doctor, took Naruto from her, miniature earthquakes going all throughout Konoha as the Kyuubi made its way towards the walls about a mile out. Yes, Minato-kun. She chopped up the words as she held her stomach. You and I both know the Kyuubi is what we need to get an upper hand with Kumo and the other villages he trailed off. Ah! She cried out as she held her abdomen softly, the other baby about to be pushed through. Yes, but we can't tame Kyuubi, we need a Jinchuriki, absolutely not. She yelled before holding her abdomen yet again in pain. I will not allow you to use our children. She yelled. Calm down, Kushina. You need to be calm or the baby won't come out. It will just hurt you and the baby in the long run. Bawako warned. Kushina calmed down but still met Minato with a stern gaze. It's the only way, Kushina. We can't let the Kyuubi go on a rampage throughout Konoha. We have to seal it. Minato yelled back. If there were any other children, I'd do it with them, but the child has to be under a week old or the person must have extremely strong chakra coils. He said, as the second baby was born. This one was a girl they would name Kimiko. Mito-sama's life was hard when people knew of her status as a Jinchuriki. She stayed held up in the Senju compound for most of the remainder of her life because people shunned her for being the demon. Kushina responded as she tried to stand but was only pushed back down by Bawako. We can't argue about this, Kushina. I'm going to hold off on Kyuubi. You need to make your mind up because I will not allow that beast to destroy my village. He responded as he opened the window, threw Hirashin kunai out of it before flashing away in a yellow light. He's right, Kushina-chan the Sandame spoke as he entered the room in his samurai-like armor, making her glare at him. However, I do not agree with the Jinchuriki being your children, his aged eyes traveling over to the two peacefully sleeping children in Kushina's arms. That was before his gaze traveled over to his wife's worried one. You're going out there, Koi? She asked worriedly while Hiruzen nodded. It's my duty, he spoke with a soft smile before walking over to her to kiss her on the forehead. What gives him the right to do that to my children? Kushina shouted, making the newly named Kimiko and Naruto, of which were wrapped in blue and pink blankets depending on their gender, to shift slightly. It's his duty, as Hokage, to do what's best for the village, but remember, I do not agree with him. Mito-sama's life was hard and cruel, but maybe these villagers will see these two in a different light. I will travel to the Senju compound to look through Mito-sama's notes on sealing a biju aside from the Shiki Fuijin, Hiruzen said while Kushina growled a beastly growl. His reasons are selfish, I know, Kushina, but please see this in his perspective, he asked while she looked at her two children and nodded before a few tears fell from her eyes. Come back when you find anything Mito-sama had on sealing A, she spoke through the tears. She did not want her children to go through what Mito-sama went through. Of course, Kushina-chan, Saratobi spoke with a curt nod as he jumped out of the window and made his way towards the Senju compound behind the Hokage heads. Elsewhere, Obito, a deep and authoritative voice spoke from atop the Kyuubi of which was about a mile away from Konoha now, many ninja lining its walls. That voice belonged to none other than Madara Uchiha, the co-founder of Konohagakure no Sado, first exile of Konoha, and first to attain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He was dressed in metal, crimson-colored samurai armor that covered his chest, the sides of his thighs, crotch area, and top half of his arms that extended upward to cover the sides of his face. He wore a loose-fitting, long-sleeve shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the mid-part of his forearm. He had black gloves on, black boots, black, loose-fitting pants that had tape extending from his ankle to his mid-shins. He also wore a piece of black cloth under his armor from his waist to his knees in an almost skirt-like fashion. He had his gunbai, war fan, on his back with a segmented chain attaching said gunbai to a sickle on his hip as well as in his shirt so that they would not be separated from him. Yes, Aji-sama. The 7-year-old spoke in a submissive tone. Do you remember your part in the plan? Madara asked, not even bothering to look back at the boy behind him as he watched the Kyuubi make his way towards Konoha, Madara's eternal Mangekyo putting said beast under a powerful to do his bidding. Most thought that any Mangekyo could control a tailed beast, however only an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan could do that job. Of course, Aji-sama. I am going to decimate the Uchiha clan, Obito said. Obito had short hair, charcoal eyes, and a roundish face. Someone could point towards him being 7. He wore the Uchiha clan's traditional clothing. This attire included a pair of black pants and gloves with a white presumed form-fitting shirt underneath. Over that he wore a purple high-collared long-sleeve mantle that split down the lower half and had the Uchiha crest on the back. Around his waist he wore a simple light purple obi and a belt. And if you're having trouble figuring it out, it's his Shippuden wartime outfit minus the mask. Yes. However, their prodigy, Shisui Uchiha, is a part of Anbu. He is far above your league and has the 3 Tomo Sharingan. He is only 10 years old however is mid-jonin level in strength. He will most likely be fighting the Kyuubi, but when or if he comes back to the Uchiha estate, you are to leave immediately, no matter how many Uchiha are left. Am I clear? Madara said commandingly while turning back to look at Obito of which the former had his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan active. Yes, Aji-sama, Obito spoke as he disappeared in a puff of smoke, signifying he had left in a shunshin. The heir to my name will be decided between Minato's 2 sons. The daughter is unimportant, he told himself. He then jumped off the Kyuubi just as the 9 tails swiped at the village's walls with its clawed hand. Madara heard screams as he made his way to the top of the Hokage monuments to overlook the destruction about to be caused personally. He crossed his arms as the wind blew his mane of black hair and clothing. Madara didn't blink as the Kyuubi let compressed and albeit weaker forms of the Biju Dama be released into the village causing fires to start and for people to die. He released a chuckle as he watched the civilians cower to their bunkers and for the shinobi to try and fight the mighty Nine Tails. I trust everything is going according to plan. Madara spoke as he felt a presence appear behind him, not even bothering to look to see the Sandaime walking up to him. Yes. I am going to the Senju compound now to receive the necessary sealing supplies to seal the Kyuubi. Is Obito heading towards the Uchiha compound? Hiruzen asked before he flinched as he watched the carnage unfold in the village hidden in the leaves. Yes, he is. I see Minato's quest for power is getting the better of him. When I acquire Minato's other son, I will have a blood clone take his place. What are you planning to separate the Kyuubi into? Madara asked, still not looking at Hiruzen. I was planning to split the Yin chakra into young Naruto, the soul, and Yang chakra into Kimiko, Hiruzen explained. Good. The blood clone will have no traces of the Kyuubi's chakra, thus making it to where Minato's wife and Minato will focus more on the girl more than Naruto. Blood clones share not only experiences, but emotions as well. When Naruto comes back here, shortly after I am dead, he will dispel the clone and gain all of the negative and positive emotions from the clone, thus making it to where he himself will have negative feelings for his family, deadening his emotions further. He will be the perfect replacement for me or Obito, and young Obito has a head start already, Madara finished with a restrained grin. What will my part in this be? The Sandaime asked as he took in the information being placed before him. You will train the blood clone while I train the real Naruto in either the real world or the dimension. It will be the equivalent to 30 years of training when he receives the memories from his clone. My training will begin as soon as the boy can walk and understand the difference between yes and no. Yours will probably begin when Naruto is 5 years old. What you will be teaching him will be earth and water primarily and how to wield them properly. I will teach him his fire affinity, chakra control, and how to properly wield his Sharingan like a true Uchiha should, Madara spoke as he watched a fourth Hokage redirect a giant Bijuadama with his beloved Hirshin technique. From what Madara had observed, that was annoying, as the intangibility ability his Sharingan had was the perfect counter. How do you know he has those 3 affinities? Hiruzen asked as he saw an explosion a few miles away outside the walls. He had to thank Kami that Minato had Hirshin seals everywhere outside Konoha's walls. I am a sensor type, my boy, or have you forgotten with your old age? Madara chuckled hollowly. It is also good, as Minato's wife has the lightning affinity, while Minato has wind. I can practically feel the gap being created between parent and child, already Madara grinned wider, as neither parent had a fire affinity, water, or earth. Why do I want to separate the family so much? Sandaime asked. Minato was a mistake that was born into this world, and always will be. That is why I sealed his Sharingan forever. He has given me heirs to my name, yes, but he was nothing more than a catalyst to something greater, and always will be. Obito and Naruto are the prime examples, Madara continued to explain as he watched Minato summon a giant frog to combat the fox. As to why. Like I told you, Naruto must be free of burdens such as his family if he wants to progress. They will hinder his growth, so I will attempt to cut the ties that haven't even been made yet. Silence ensued save Kyuubi's occasional roar and the shouts of shinobi below. Have you sent a clone to gather the required materials? Madara asked the former Hokage. I did, as soon as you arrived on top of the monument, the 50-year-old man explained. Good, Madara responded before a chuckle escaped his lips. Remind me again why you served me? He asked with some mirth in his voice. In my old age, I seem to have forgotten. You don't look a day over 30, Hiruzen chuckled. You raised me when I lost my parents in the First Shinobi World War. You trained me, you looked out for me, and you will always have my allegiance, Tsunade, Hiruzen spoke while Madara chuckled once more. Good, he said simply, as his enhanced eyes caught sight of Obito running along rooftops towards the Uchiha district. But Minato. 10 minutes earlier, Minato disappeared in a flash of yellow just as a beam of raw chakra fired from the Nine Tails impacted a building next to him, resulting in the decimation of said building, a fire starting in the husk of the massive wood and tile. I'm gonna have to pay for that later. At least the cost is well worth a reward, he chuckled as he landed on a nearby roof, just as several Anbu landed around him in the kneeling position. Akio-Sama, what are your orders? One spoke in a calm voice. This one had a beige cloak signifying that he was the Anbu commander, as well as an Inu mask that had thick pointed stripes originating from the forehead and either cheek. We are to hold off the Kyuubi until the Sandaime gathers the necessary materials for its sealing, Minato spoke while each nodded. He noted that one had on a hawk mask, short black hair, and charcoal eyes, marking him as none other than Shisui Uchiha, the Uchiha prodigy, as well as pride and joy. He had a tanto, Japanese short sword, strapped to his back, as well as traditional Anbu armor. Hawk, you are to gather any available genin and escort the civilians in the eastern part of Konoha to the bunkers. Salamander, Cat, you two are with me, Minato told the three Anbu, while each nodded, Hakusenshining to the eastern half of Konoha to gather the genin stationed at the academy, the Anbu commander going to gather any other Anbu, and to attack the Kyuubi head-on. In a flash, Minato and the two Anbu flew off into the night, screaming civilians below them as they rocketed towards the roaring Kyuubi, its tails flailing around menacingly as it stomped its massive foot down onto the ground, killing any civilians or shinobi unlucky enough to be below the paw. Buildings were decimated as the beast walked through Konoha, and fires raged. Civilians were screaming as they thought the apocalypse had begun. After flying at the giant beast, only for it to shrug the attacks off. The Nine Tails was a few hundred yards inside Konoha as the Yondaime stood in front of the beast with a massive shinobi and Kunoichi behind him, making it look down at the blonde-haired man. Minato swore he saw the beast crack a grin before he saw it charging a Bijuadama, making the Hokage's eyes go wide as he looked behind him in the direction of where the beast wanted to fire the giant orb of destruction. It wanted to fire at the hospital. So the beast has some sort of intellect after all, Minato thought as he disappeared in a flash of yellow towards the hospital. I hope this works, he muttered as he prepared a Hiraishin kunai just above Kushina's hospital room. The orb of destruction flew over buildings as it rocketed to the 4-story high hospital. It would have impacted had not Minato's Hiraishin redirected it to a training ground outside the village. Minato flashed back to the battleground of the destroyed building and dead leaf shinobi and Kunoichi. Looks like I'll need help for this one, he spoke as he flew through hand seals and then bit his thumb before slamming it to the ground, seals spreading everywhere just as a large toad was summoned. Gamabunta. Minato yelled out to the frog he was sitting on. Wait, what the hell? What do you need my help for? Gamabunta roared just as he looked forward. Oh, Kyuubi, well never mind, the giant frog chuckling. You need my help? He asked his summoner, nodding. I'll try my best then, Bunta said as he jumped in the air, drawing his sword quickly to bring it down towards the Nine Tails, only for said Biju to jump back, closer to the destroyed section of the walls. But Obito, the young Sharingan wielder, ran stealthily along the rooftops of Konoha towards the Uchiha district, eyes glancing towards the Hokage monument where his Akio-Sama was located. Madara had explained to him why the current Uchiha clan had to be wiped out. He explained that it had to be replaced by true Uchiha, such as Obito's half-brother and himself. Obito ran and ran until he made it to a large pale blue gate that looked to be sealed tight with Uchiha crest embroidered on it. This must be it, Obito thought as he jumped on a nearby roof to see a couple dozen Uchiha in or flak jacket vests being preached to what Obito presumed as the clan head in a courtyard. Explosive tags and a Kaiten should do the trick, Obito thought as he drew several kunai and attached explosive seals onto them. He had 4 kunai in his left hand while his right hand went through single-handed hand seals. And it is our duty to not get involved in this fight and to preserve the Uchiha name so that we may carry on. The Sharingan Fugaku was cut off as 4 kunai embedded themselves in 4 different Uchiha skulls before the kunai each went off, incinerating 8 other Uchiha caught in the blast radius. The clan head turned to his right only to see no one there, though he did look farther behind him to see a small child in purple attire and a large fireball. Kaiten. Nkakuk no Jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique, Obito shouted as the flames enveloped another 6 Uchiha including the clan head. Having the element of surprise really went in his favor as there were only 6 Uchiha left. He killed Fugaku-sama. One shouted in disbelief. He's just a kid, get him. Another shouted before each of the Uchiha members drew. This hardly seems like a fair fight. Let's even this up a little, Obito said as he flew through hand seals, creating 5 water clones. Obito ducked just as an Uchiha hard charged him and elbowed said man in the ribcage. Before kicking him in the sternum, making him fly back into a nearby wooden post. Obito jumped in the air after drawing several shuriken from his pouch. He then flung said pieces of metal at the drowned man, effectively silencing him. Water Clone 1 charged another Uchiha and slid under the large man's legs before stopping himself with his hands. He then reared his legs back before kicking the man forward onto another waiting Water Clone's kunai. Water Clone 2, after using teamwork to kill an Uchiha, jumped in the air as a fireball flew at him. The Water Clone flew through hand signs. Surum no Jutsu. Water release. Water prison technique, it yelled as an unsuspecting Uchiha was trapped in the newly formed sphere of water, slowly drowning. Another Uchiha growled as he charged Water Clone 2. However, he was intercepted by a hail of kunai from his left. He spun in the air before landing on the ground, his 2 Tomo Sharingan activating as he did so. Water Clone 3 said nothing as its own Sharingan activated. The older Uchiha gasped. What? An Uchiha, why are you doing this to your own clan, boy? He growled out as he drew several kunai in each hand. The Water Clone said nothing again as it charged the man only to stop as the clan leader, Fugaku, phased in front of him with a tanto in hand. Before the water clone could react, the short sword swiped through it, resulting in it dropping into a pool of water. Obito was shocked as he looked at the singed face of Fugaku. I killed him. He shouldn't be alive. Having killed an entire bandit camp 2 months ago, Obito had already taken his first life, so now it didn't really matter. Obito did a series of flips as he flung a hail of kunai at the clan head. Kunai Cage Bushin no, Kunai Shadow Clone Technique, Obito shouted as the 8 kunai transformed into 80. The attack had kicked up a lot of dirt, though once it cleared, it seemed that Fugaku had used the previous member as a substitute for himself. Heian. Nkakuk no Jutsu. Fugaku shouted behind Obito, making the 7-year-old turn around to dodge a large fireball. Fugaku flipped onto a nearby building just as the water prison deactivated, signifying the Uchiha inside was dead. A water clone appeared in front of him, offering a kick to the side of the head, only for Fugaku to draw a kunai before blocking the kick. The clone flipped backward only for Fugaku to appear behind him and behead him, making the clone turn to water. Fugaku jumped into the center of the courtyard to see all 24 of the Uchiha dead and only himself remaining. His 3 Tomo Sharingan activated just as Obito and the 3 surviving water clones to appear around him, each of them having their Sharingan activated. Why would you do this to your own clan, boy? Fugaku asked Obito as he looked at each of the water clones. My reasons are my own, Obito replied, as each of the clones including himself readied a kunai and charged the clan head. Damn it, Sarutobi, where are you? Minato roared as he disappeared in a yellow flash to dodge another beam of red chakra that tore through many trees. Minato had successfully pushed the Kyuubi out of Konoha's walls with the help of Gamabunta. Said Ba Summon was currently on top of the Kyuubi holding it down, though the beast's mouth was adamantly trying to kill the 4th Hokage by firing several explosive projectiles at it. You damn fox. Hold the fuck still. Gamabunta yelled at the Kyuubi as he slammed his hand down on its snout, making the beast growl slowly at him. I don't think he wants to, Gamashiro commented. Second, Gamaken sighed. I'm here, Minato. A voice called out behind the current Hokage to see Hiruzen with both children in his arms, with a large scroll attached to his back. Alright. Bunta. I'm going to go organize our forces while Hiruzen seals the Kyuubi. Got it, Minato yelled to the large toad. Whatever, you owe me the biggest drink ever after this. Gamabunta yelled back, making Minato chuckle before he hirshened away. Hiruzen flew through hand seals after he had sat the 2 sleeping children down onto the soft grass of the clearing. No, summoning technique, he yelled as he flung his hands down onto the ground. A puff of smoke appeared and then dissipated to reveal the Monkey King himself, Enma. Hiruzen, why have you summoned me? Enma shouted as he looked around the clearing to see Gamabunta, Gamaken and Gamashiro sitting atop the Kyuubi, though the formers were struggling immensely. Oh, Hiruzen sighed. We're all summons out of it today. I need you to help those 3, Enma. They won't last much longer. Hiruzen pleaded, making Enma nod immediately. The monkey then grew to about 3 stories tall before taking hold of the Kyuubi's left arm and snouts that were threatening to break free so that Gamabunta could focus on the other 4 tails, lower back and left leg. Gamaken was focusing on the right leg and the other 5 tails, while Gamashiro was focusing on Kyuubi's neck and right arm. Hiruzen took up a meditative pose as he unraveled the scroll around himself and the still sleeping children. He flew through more hand seals as 2 ghostly arms traveled out of the scroll, then a head, and then a long white robe. He had lied to Minato, as this was the only effective way of sealing the Kyuubi into separate portions. Why have you opened this scroll, mortal? The death god bellowed. I want to seal the Kyuubi, as was this scroll's purpose, Shinigami-sama. Mito-sama has already paid you with her husband's soul. So, if you may. Hiruzen told the death god. So you want to follow up on her deal then, eh? Then I was no one to argue, the Shinigami chuckled darkly as he turned to the Kyuubi. Who would you like me to seal this in, mortal? I would like you to seal the yin chakra into the boy here, he said, pointing to Naruto, and to seal the soul and yang chakra of the Kyuubi into the girl, Hiruzen finished as he pointed to the sleeping form of Kamiko. So you say, it shall be so, the Shinigami chuckled again as he drew the dagger from his mouth before letting his ghostly hand extend toward the Kyuubi while the other arm separated into 2 and then into Naruto and Kamiko. But the Obito. So, this is how it ends. I died to a kid. What kind of clan head am I? Fugaku chuckled weakly as he spat on the ground to get rid of some of the blood in his mouth. He gazed around the destroyed and aflame courtyard and smiled weakly. He had at least 6 kunai sticking out of his back. Seeing as how I is about to die, why not spare a dying man the knowledge of who sent you? He asked the bleeding but standing Obito. Obito's uniform was cut in many places, he had a scar going across his cheek and had Fugaku's tanto in hand. Obito thought about it and prepared the tanto to decapitate Fugaku. It is time for new and better Uchiha to take the title of the Uchiha name from your pitiful souls. My name is Obito Uchiha, bastard son of Minato Namikaze and grandson to Madara Uchiha. And I am your executioner, Obito finished, as he looked at the wide eyes of Yugaku before beheading said man, letting the head roll to the ground before the body fell with it. Obito's eyes traveled to a nearby woman who was on her knees at the doors of the main Uchiha mansion. Sachi. She said weakly, making Obito's eyes widen briefly. The woman was wearing a simple blue kimono with an undershirt. She had charcoal eyes, soft complexion, and long black hair. Who are you, woman? Obito demanded as he walked up to her only for her to envelope him in a hug. My name's Akira and I'm your Kasan, Sachi, she said with a large smile as she held left hand up in a peace sign just after she released him from the hug. Madara-sensei told me to expect you to be here, he told me to kill you and everyone else. Obito trailed off impassively, though Akira's smile never faded from her face. He then began to tear up. But, I can't do it, Kasan. Obito cried as he clung to her. She merely ruffled his hair and offered him another smile. I understand, Sachi-kun. I'm not afraid to die by your hands, but if you can't do it, then just knock me out and keep on with Madara-sensei's mission he gave you, she said happily. He could tell she wasn't lying when she said she wasn't afraid to die, but just nodded to her and smiled before wiping the tears. He appeared behind her with an elbow to the neck, effectively making her black out, but not before muttering one last sentence. I love you, Sachi-kun. Obito smiled slightly as he walked through the estate. I love you too, Kasan, he said as the slaughter began. Unknown to him, a set of red eyes were watching him with a small smile on the beholder's face. With Hiruzen, the three-toed summons dispersed just as the Kyuubi was sealed in its respective containers, with Enma dispersing shortly after the toads. Each of them grumbling that they would get some pretty big fucking treats for what they did. The Shinigami, however, stayed behind to look at Hiruzen and then to sniff the air. So you've been dealing with Madara Uchiha, have you? The death god chuckled darkly. Hiruzen picked up the two children and smiled at them before looking at the Shinigami. Yes, I have. I serve him because I owe him my life, Hiruzen explained. Then tell him he had better do what he has to do quickly. His borrowed time is running out, the death god chuckled again before dispersing into thin air and for the scroll used earlier to burn up in a blue flame. I have 15 years, just in case you were wondering, Hiruzen, Madara explained, just as he came out of a swirling vortex. So, will this be the last time I ever see you in person again, Tsunade? Hiruzen asked sadly. Yes, Hiruzen. You do, however, get the privilege of training the possible heir to my name. So cheer up, Madara chuckled. I won't disappoint you, Tsunade, Hiruzen said with determination in his aged voice. Now Madara trailed off as he drew a kunai and took Naruto from the Sandaime Hokage. He then pricked the young boy's arm, making him whine slightly so that a drop of blood could trail down his arm. Madara did a single hand sign, and the drop of blood that had then fallen to the ground morphed into an identical looking baby, a blood clone, the Jinchuriki seal on its stomach gone, and a second blue blanket around its form. Hiruzen picked the baby up while Madara looked straight into Naruto's now awake blue eyes. He had no blemishes on his skin, just a normal looking baby with blue eyes and blonde hair. Aka no whisker marks. Madara cast his gaze over to Kimiko and scoffed. She had blue eyes, 6 whisker marks, and red hair. This was a game only two could play. Kimiko would only hamper his game. After all, only a male Uchiha could take Madara's name. Madara nodded in Hiruzen's direction. Goodbye Sachi, Madara said as he disappeared in a vortex. Hiruzen smiled sadly. Goodbye, Tsunade, he whispered. Seconds later Minato arrived with several Anbu around him. So you sealed the Kyuubi into Kimiko? Minato asked as he saw the whisker marks that weren't there earlier. Yes. Kimiko had similar chakra to Mito-sama's if I remember, so I thought it best to seal the beast inside of her, Hiruzen lied. Minato, however, nodded. Alright. Good work. All of you. We have successfully reclaimed the Kyuubi. Minato cheered as the Anbu did as well. To please my wife, however, this will be an S-rank secret. Do not speak of her status to anyone unless I give permission. Am I clear? Minato commanded as the Anbu immediately silenced before nodding. Some, however, muttered the word whipped, making chuckles go around. Good. Now, rest up. We have rebuilding to do tomorrow. He said with a smile, making the Anbu groan. With Obito, slaughter. That was the only word to describe what it was like in the Uchiha compound. No more like massacre. That was the word one could describe it as. The Uchiha massacre. Bodies littered the homes and streets of the Uchiha district. Every man, woman, child, and infant was slaughtered by one man, one boy. There was only one family after that, and it was the clan head's family. It is composed of Issei Uchiha, female Itachi, anyone. Check profile for link. The 2-week-old Sasuko, original name I know, check profile for link. Uchiha and their mother Mikoto Uchiha. Obito made his way through Fugaku's old home towards the bedroom. That was the only room left, as he had searched the whole home. He was down the hallway away from the master bedroom, tanto in hand with blood dripping from it, signifying he had just made another kill. He was right in front of the door when he opened it to find Makoto cradling Sasuko, while Isane was in front of the bed with a kunai shakily in hand. "Get out of here. I don't want to hurt you," she stuttered, as Obito looked at her impassively. She was wearing a pair of black shorts with typical high-collared Uchiha vestments. She had long hair like her mother's and a set of charcoal black eyes. Isane Uchiha trailed off as he walked toward her with his tanto in hand. She charged at him. "Isane, no." Makoto shouted as Obito batted the small girl away with the flat of the short sword. "Weak, just like your father," Obito spoke to Isane, making said girl's eyes go wide. "You killed Fugaku." Makoto stuttered as Obito merely nodded. "He put up quite a fight, more than your pathetic other Uchiha did. What happened to the supposed Uchiha elite? I thought this clan was supposed to be strong," Obito spoke as he activated his Sharingan. "It seems that I was misinformed," he added. He looked at the angry Isane. "You want to avenge your father and your clan, don't you?" He asked her to grit her teeth, but also to nod slightly. "Then hate me, despise, let that be your driving cause to get stronger. Let no one stand in your way to get to me and to kill me," he said as he extended his arms to either side of him with a playful smirk written on his face. "As for you two," he cast his gaze at Makoto and the sleeping Sasuko. "I will kill you just to make her drive that much bigger," he said while Makoto's eyes widened slightly and for her to cover Sasuko with her body. Obito trekked forward, his tanto scraping the wood as he walked toward the woman and baby on the bed, his face adorning an impassive expression. He raised his sword above his head and brought it down only for it to be parried by Isane. He looked at her with cold eyes, though they widened slightly as he saw that they had a single tomo in each. "So the threat of killing your family activated your Sharingan interest," he muttered as he swung at to the side with the flat of his blade on for her to duck and lunged at him, kunai in hand preparing to kill him. It was futile as she was flung against the wall by a water clone he made a moment after she got up. "Pitiful," Obito spoke, using the talk as mind games to mess with her head and for her to become angry. He looked at Makoto and the infant. "Now, where were we?" he said as he started to walk towards them only to stop as a person with black hair, hawk mask signifying his place in Anbu, and tanto in hand phased in front of him. Obito jumped to the other side of the room, his tanto readied, but then his stance slackened as he remembered his grandfather's words. Shisui Uchiha looked in the eyes of said Uchiha only to find them missing the tomo, but with a black shuriken in its place. The Mangekyo Sharingan. "Then you are truly out of my league," Obito paused as he started to swirl away in a vortex. "Remember my words," Isane Uchiha said as he phased out of existence just as Shisui swiped at him. Damned, Shisui cursed as he turned around to comfort Makoto-sama and her daughters. "Kamui Dimension. I'm proud of you, Obito, for not killing your mother," Madara spoke as he cradled the infant Naruto in his arms as he rocked back and forth. He offered the infant a soft smile to Naruto, making the baby giggle happily. "Why, Aji-sama. I failed you," Obito spoke submissively. "You exuded the will to not follow an order from someone far stronger than you. That takes a strong will to do. For that, I am proud of you. As well as leaving the clan head's former family alive. You could have killed each of them if you wanted to, but you gave each of them something to think on. A goal to achieve," Madara spoke. "Good job," he added, making Obito blush slightly under the praise. "This is your new Obito," he said as he showed Obito the smiling Naruto. "It looks like you have competition now," Madara joked while Obito chuckled nervously. "Nice to meet you," Obito smiled as he took Naruto from Madara's arms just as Naruto pulled on Obito's collar. "He likes you," Madara chuckled as he gazed at the two half-brothers. Their relationship as brothers will grow and grow, but in the end, it will be those two on the battlefield, glaring at each other, prepared to kill each other. It will be glorious, Madara thought with glee. Naruto's cold and impassive gaze traveled to the old and dying Madara's, the old man on his deathbed in the Kamui dimension. It had been 15 years of absolute torture from the old man. Torture he called training, and Naruto didn't regret a second of it. One part of the training required Naruto to raise a rabbit. A simple rabbit for 1 year and then kill it before skinning it, gutting it, and then eating it. It was either that or lose a hand, and Naruto chose the former. It was a brutal yet effective way of teaching Naruto how to kill and to not get attached to things. It started with animals, and like Obito, he took his first life on his 7th birthday. That also led to the development of the second tomo in his Sharingan, also like Obito. The three often made trips to the real world to carry out supply runs, and for the two younger Uchiha to gain real-world experience and to test their Sharingan abilities on the weak-minded. Naruto's knowledge and strategy and general intellect were higher than Madara's, though it took more of a visual explanation than verbal when Madara taught him about the world and academics. When Naruto was 10, he was given his very own gunbai and sickle and could go toe-to-toe with his grandfather when it was gunbai and sickle only. When Naruto was 13, he opted to dress like his grandfather. He wore similar crimson armor with thick black streaks running along the arms, chest, back, and thighs in the same places his grandfather did, i.e. armor that covered his chest, the sides of his thighs that conjoined to cover his crotch, and top half of his arms that extended upward to cover the sides of his face. He wore a loose-fitting, long-sleeved shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the mid-part of his forearms. He had black gloves on, black boots, black, loose-fitting pants that had tape extending from his ankle to his mid-shins. He also wore a mantle under his leg armor. Naruto usually kept his sickle at his hip. He also had chakra disruption blades instead of the usual kunai or shuriken. He also used segmented chakra conducting chains that were used to attach his sickle and wore fan to him so they wouldn't be unattached from him. Naruto's physical appearance consisted of a pair of unforgiving, merciless cold, hard cerulean blue eyes that had long lost their shine, as well as a long mane of spiky yet tame dirty blonde hair with black streaks that reached his mid-back like his grandfather's and covered his right eye. He had a slim yet muscular build with tightly packed muscles that contained a lot of strength. When he was in the real world, women would often swoon at his appearance. He had an angular jawline, chiseled and handsome features, and a winning complexion. Every 2 months, Madara would send the Sandame Hokage pictures of the real Naruto's appearance to make the Sandame influence the blood clone of Naruto, verbally to look more like the real Naruto. He didn't force it on the clone, he just merely would talk to him and suggest a certain style, and the blood clone compiled every time. When the real Naruto would return to Konoha and take the blood clone's place, people would ask questions if they did not look alike with hair length or clothing style. Naruto had also lost his virginity to a random civilian woman when he was 13. He had seduced her mainly by whispering sweet nothings in her ear and then bedding her. He continued to seduce women each time Obito, his grandfather and himself would visit the real world. Sometimes it would be Kunoichi and sometimes Akage's wife. Though that was only the Sandame Kazukiya's wife, and one would also be surprised how many virgins there were in the world, Naruto claiming many of them. Obito named his half-brother the Virgin Killer. Those 2 little words were something that always seemed to break through Naruto's cold visage, making the young Uchiha crack a small smirk every time he heard them. One could ask why a 13-year-old would be sleeping around with women. Naruto had embraced that even the strongest shinobi could die on any mission or at any given time and decided to live it up, one could say, while he was still alive. The life of a shinobi was a notoriously short one, so he'd make the most of it. Naruto's Sharingan, like his half-brother and grandfather's, was connected to the dimension. He had awakened his base Sharingan at 5, second Tomo at 7, third Tomo at 8, and Mangekyo at 11, after Madara had trapped Naruto in a Tsukiyomi and refused to let the boy out until he had killed a fake Obito. Obito had awakened at 17, 1 year prior to Naruto's. One thing that baffled Madara was that Obito did not have access to the Susanoo, but his Mangekyo did not affect his eyesight in the slightest, as well as his Tsukiyomi was distinctly more powerful than Madara's own and Naruto's, thus making it to where Obito's Mangekyo could control a Biju because of its magnificent capabilities, with the Sanbi being the training dummy. Though Madara was sure that without an eternal Mangekyo, Obito's Sharingan couldn't control above the 5 tails. Naruto's Mangekyo was distinctly shaped like a Fuma Shuriken, and his Susanoo was distinctly stronger than Madara. Naruto's stage 2 Susanoo could go up against Madara's stage 4, and Naruto's stage 4 Susanoo could go up against his grandfather's final Susanoo. Naruto's adeptness in his fire affinity was just below his grandfather's in that regard. He could now cast Katen. Kankakek no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique with a single hand seal and start fires with a snap of his fingers. Naruto could use Mokuton to a greater degree than Madara thanks to his Senju heritage. Madara did not focus on Mokuton, as Hiruzen had sent a letter saying that the blood clone was working on that as well, coupled with the independent water and earth. With a little training to boot. Naruto did not hate the Senjus like his grandfather, nor did Obito. They understood that the Senjus often put themselves up on a high horse, but they could cope as there was only one left in the world. Naruto's bond with Obito grew to where there was no line called half-brother in their relationship. It was just brothers. Madara coughed, making the 2 younger Uchiha snap their gaze to him. They also had 2 partners by their sides. Obito had a being known as Black Zetsu by his side, while Naruto had a being known as White Zetsu by his side, each made by Madara. Black Zetsu was made with Madara's Yun release, and White Zetsu was made by his Yang release. Both Zetsus were eerily quiet as well. It seems my time has come to an end, he chuckled weakly. Obito Naruto said almost in a whisper, gaining their undivided attention. Yes, Akio-Sama. They chorused. I have instilled into both of you a different light. Obito coughed. Remember my plan I have shared with you, he said, making Naruto grunt. He had never been told of the plan they were referring to, only that he was to stop it whenever it came to fruition. "Of course, Akio-Sama," he said, bowing in respect. Obito now wore an orange mask with a swirl revolving around his right eye and a simple black cloak. The 22-year-old's hairstyle did not change, as he preferred to keep it short. "Naruto, remember to stop said plan at all costs, cough," he said, as he coughed into his hand. "Whatever it may be, attempt to stop it and kill the man orchestrating said plan," he said while Naruto simply shifted his gaze towards Obito, allowing a curt nod to follow. "Now, Naruto, as my final gift to you, take my eyes," he said, making both younger Uchiha's eyes go wide slightly. The old and frail Uchiha reached up just as his own eyes shifted to his eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. He then reached into the sockets before gently gripping them and taking them out of his sockets. Madara held them in one hand as he used his quickly dissipating chakra to make a glass jar and a lid with fluid inside of it to preserve the eyes for transport. "Of course, Akio-Sama," he said calmly as he took off his glove to take the eyes and lay the jar on the bed before opening it. He then placed the eyes in the jar before closing it and sealing in a seal on his armor. Naruto wiped his hand on his pant leg before placing his glove back over his hand. He would have to get someone to transplant the eyes as soon as possible. Naruto and Madara couldn't see it, pun intended, but there was a burning fury behind Obito's visible eye. He had been with Madara longer and the old man decided to give his brother his eyes. Ridiculous. Naruto merely shifted his gaze slightly towards Obito as he felt the malice coming off of him. Small shockwaves were reverberating to him and Naruto understood that his brother was angry. And it was all thanks to Kyuubi's chakra. What Naruto meant by traces was that the majority of the Kyuubi's chakra was no longer a separate entity in his body. He converted the beast's chakra into his, permanently augmenting his actual chakra to new heights. He was literally a tailed beast without a tail. If one would give an estimate, Naruto still had about 30% of the Kyuubi's chakra within him, but that was just so he could detect emotions and to use it for a healing ability higher than his own. So that meant Naruto had no chakra cloak, no Bijuu mode, and could not morph into the nine tails. The old and now eyeless Uchiha couldn't help but chuckle as he also felt the anger, but it was more instinctual. That, however, was also part of his plan to drive a wedge between the two brothers. Silence ensued until Madara went into a coughing fit. "Bury me if you wish or leave me here, I don't care. When one of you is dead by the other's hand, then my name is yours, goodbye." He paused and chuckled one last time. "And show the world how true Uchiha do battle," and with those last words, the most legendary Uchiha to date, Madara Uchiha, died. In reality it was only a few minutes, but in the brothers' minds, it felt like an eternity as they simply stood there. One had his eyes open while the other had his eyes closed. One had his arms crossed, one had them hanging limply at his side. Both were in silent mourning as their grandfather died. Naruto shook his head before reaching down beside his grandfather's deathbed to pick up a large satchel. Inside the satchel were a number of Mokuton scrolls, fire scrolls he had yet to master, a summoning scroll he had yet to sign, and large-scale chakra control scrolls with instructions for Naruto's still growing chakra coils. And Naruto accepted nothing less than perfection when it came to chakra control. It was just a quirk of his. Obito opened his eyes and did the same with another satchel, though this one was filled with different lightning, water, 2 summoning contracts he had yet to open and sign, and fire scrolls. There were no chakra control scrolls, as his chakra coils had expanded to their maximum capacity, and he had also memorized chakra control techniques. They both slung their respective bags over their shoulders silently before the older of the two brothers put a hand on the younger brother's shoulder. They then swirled away after both Zetsu put their hands on their respective masters in a vortex, leaving the deceased body of their grandfather behind. For the umpteenth time, Kimiko Uzumaki Namika's sighed as she watched her academy sensei, Haruka Yamino, lecture about the upcoming genin exams. The instructor had been somewhat of a big brother to her over the years. He was really nice and would often take her out to ramen in a friendly way. She looked around the room to look at some of her friends. Her eyes first landed on Ino Yamanaka, the heiress to the Yamanaka clan. The girl had long platinum blonde hair and a ponytail with bangs covering her right eye, pale blue eyes, and a face that would make boys swoon. She wore a short purple, sleeveless blouse with an open front purple apron skirt over a shorter black skirt with short fishnet shorts underneath it. Next, her eyes landed on the Inyazuka twins, Kiba and Hana Inyazuka. Kiba had a feral appearance with black eyes and slit pupils, short and spiky brown hair, 2 fang-like markings on both cheeks, and pronounced canines. He wore what one could equate to a leather jacket with many zippers on it. He wore black shinobi pants that ended at the ankles with zippers on either leg going up to mid-calf also. He also had on black shinobi sandals that zipped. His dog, Akamaru, was a large white dog that often sat beside his desk in class. Hana Inyazuka was the tamer-looking one of the two twins. She had straight brown hair she often wore in a ponytail, as well as the classic red fangs, signifying she was a part of the Inyazuka clan. She also had 2 bangs framing her face. She often wore a beige jacket with high collar, blue shorts over fishnet that extended lower than the shorts, and high-heeled sandals. Next was Hinata Hyuga. She had a set of lavender eyes and a round face. She had purple hair that came down to her mid-back and 2 bangs that framed her face, also covering each temple that was shoulder length. Her current attire consisted of a loose-fitting, long-sleeved, lavender, and cream zip-up jacket with lavender cuffs over mesh armor with navy blue pants and black low-heeled sandals. Next was Shikamaru Nara, the heir to the Nara clan. His hairstyle consisted of a pineapple-like fashion. He had a black t-shirt with grey designs, grey shinobi pants that went to the mid-calf, and tape that taped it down with black shinobi sandals. Next was Shino Aburam, the heir to the Aburam clan. He had on a pair of sunglasses and short brown hair. He wore a white grayish coat with sleeves that extended past his hands and a hood that covered his head, chin, and mouth. He also wore a pair of blue shorts and black shinobi sandals. Next was Sasuko Uchiha, daughter of the late Fugaku Uchiha, Mikoto Uchiha, and sister to one of the most known former Anbu, Issei Uchiha. Sasuko had a beautiful complexion with her mother's charcoal eyes. She had a cute nose and pink lips. She had nice assets right at about a low D cup and shapely legs. She had long black hair tied in a ponytail stopping just above her buttocks, as well as 2 bangs covering either temple that stopped right above her upace, as well as 3 distinct bangs on her forehead. She painted her fingernails and toenails black, often while wearing black, low-heel sandals with high tops that were skin-tight and reached to about her mid-thigh. She also wore a deep purple mantle starting from her lower abdomen and ending about her mid-thigh with skin-tight shorts underneath it, but they were not visible, but they were definitely there. To keep the mantle in place, she had a thick purple rope tied around her waist twice and then tied in a knot, and that also acted as a place to keep her black sword she had named Grasscutter she had gotten from her mother. As a shirt, she wore the traditional Uchiha high collar, grayish short-sleeved shirt that distinctly showed her cleavage. Her last article of clothing was a set of black handguards that stopped her mid-forearm. Last, but not least was Choji Akimichi. He usually sported a red suit with plated armor on his torso, arms, and upper legs. Choji is a husky teen, though he was kind to just about everyone who didn't make fun of his weight. On the armor, he has a red kanji on it for food. He also has long, spiky brown hair that goes to his lower back, a round face, and red swirls on both cheeks, as well as looped earrings. Himiko decided to look in the window to look at her reflection. She sported long, spiky red hair, think the color of Kushina's hair with Carrie's spikiness, tied in a ponytail with curved bangs going to their left on her forehead. She had a beautiful, slightly tan complexion, smooth and flat stomach with low D-cup upace, naturally red lips, violet eyes, and a cute nose. Her usual outfit consisted of a skin-tight t-shirt with a turtleneck and reached right above her belly button. Under that she wore a long-sleeve fishnet under the t-shirt with white tape covering her right arm. Above that, she wore grey Anbu torso armor, though it did not go past her t-shirt, so her stomach was still visible. She usually wore black gloves, and on her left arm, fishnet extended from her wrist to mid-bicep. She wore the classic shinobi pants with tape extending from the ankles to her knees, with a red sash tied around her waist and red sword on her right hip. She also wore black sandals and often painted her toenails red. And on her right thigh was a spare maroon kunai pouch with tape around it as well. She also had her main pouch, though it was beige, just above her right buttock. She looked around the classroom while Iruka's senseless banter was white noise in her ear. Naruto-kun's late again. Speaking of brothers, the door to the classroom opened slowly for everyone to see Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, or just Naruto, as he preferred to be called. Some villagers that didn't hate him would often refer to him as Naruto Sarutobi because of how often the young man spent time with the Sandaime. Naruto refused to be acknowledged as an Uzumaki or Namikaze in anyone's eyes because of what happened when Naruto was 8. Something that was rightfully his, something that was his birthright, his one dream was taken away from him, and most people were none the wiser except for Kimiko and a few select others. 7 years ago, why don't you want to go to your birthday, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen asked the 8-year-old boy who was panting after learning Shuriken no Jutsu, water release. Water dragon technique. The technique was made possible by the boy's extremely large chakra reserves, but took a toll on him because of his lack of control. He would eventually be learning. The boy's eyes immediately hardened at the mention of the current day. Naruto's current appearance consisted of spiky dirty blonde hair with black streaks that went down to his shoulders, simple black t-shirt, and grey shorts. You know there's no one there for me, Naruto mumbled as Hiruzen pulled the boy in a one-armed hug as they looked up at the multicolored sky that was dusk. What about Kimiko-chan? Hiruzen asked. I don't want her to be sad because of me, Naruto responded. I know that isn't the only reason, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen spoke while Naruto deflated slightly. I don't want to go back, he said simply. Why is that? The former Hokage asked. I don't like it when Tsunade and Ka-san forget about me in favor of Ni-san. I know Ka-san doesn't do it intentionally, but I have the feeling Tsunade does it for some unknown reason, Naruto said, making Hiruzen narrow his eyes. The real Naruto, from what I've been told from the letters, is beginning to be just as cold as Akio-Sama when he gets back. He will probably be even colder when the emotions transfer to him, Kami, but I know it's for the best, Hiruzen thought, as he was planning to honor his Tsunama's last wish. Is there another reason, Naruto-kun? The aged shinobi asked. You know there are a number of civilians there and the civilian council, Naruto responded sadly. If Hiruzen was any less adept at keeping his emotions in check like a proper shinobi, then he would have gone ballistic. Damn you, Minato. Why did you have to tell the council anything 2 years ago? Damn you. Naruto is not a scapegoat, damned. He shouted internally. Well, aren't Mikoto-san, Tsume-san, Sasuko-chan, Shisui-kun, and Isen-san there, as well? What about Kiba-kun and Hana-chan? Hiruzen asked, making Naruto's eyes brighten a little bit. I think I'll go, Aji-san, Naruto smiled slightly. I'll go get Wako-chan, and we will escort you, the aged man smiled. Naruto smiled and hugged his Aji-san before getting up to go get on a fresh pair of clothes he had brought with him earlier. The Wako, Tsuratobi, Hiruzen, and Naruto were each walking towards the Namikaze estate, each of the villagers metaphorically being turned to ash each time they sneered at the young Uzumaki or glared at him, though Bawako was doing most of the work with that fiery and overprotective gaze of hers. Did you and Hiruzen-kun have fun training today, Naruto-kun? Bawako asked with a small smile. Naruto's eyes gleamed. Yeah, Aba-san. I learned something new today, too. Maybe I can show you tomorrow? He smiled, making her chuckle. Why don't you spend tomorrow with your family? She asked softly, making him deflate somewhat. I guess, Aba-san, he said with a soft smile, making her heart harden towards Minato even more. The boy should love his family more than he does. You can show me the day after, she smiled as they walked, making him smile back. It took another 10 minutes to get to the Namikaze estate. It was large, but nowhere near as large as the Hyuga district or abandoned Uchiha district, the main family, and Shisui opting to live in a single house on the other side of Konoha. Naruto reached for the door handle hesitantly, though Bawako beat him to it. He turned around to see her with a sad smile on her face. She then opened the second of the 2 doors to reveal birthday decorations, a large cake on a white table. There was confetti everywhere on the ground and furniture. There were also many people there. The remaining Uchiha, main family of the Inyazuka clan, as well as Choza with his son and wife, Shikaku, his wife Ishino, and Shikamaru, Inoichi, his wife and daughter. Suddenly a voice called out, Naruto Nai. A small voice said, making Naruto turn his gaze to see his little sister in a pink kimono with her hair up in a ponytail ending at her shoulders. Hey, Kimiko-chan, he smiled as she enveloped him in a hug. Naruto hesitantly returned the hug, making Kimiko smile. Naruto wasn't around much, not for dinners, not for family night, not when Minato and Kushina would pick the 2 up from the academy, he'd just be gone. She didn't know why, but Naruto just had the underlying feeling he wasn't wanted around the home, not with his father's home anyway. He knew Kushina was unintentionally giving Kimiko more attention, and every time he used to ask her to train him, she'd agree, but Minato would quickly sway her into training Kimiko, seeing as how she had both of her elements and the Kyuubi's chakra by trying to smooth out her emotions to not get angry quickly. She didn't know about it at the time, and she still didn't know about it. Many of the nearby civilian council sneered at the Kyuubi brat, Naruto, hugging the Hokage's daughter. They knew he was the Hokage's son, but that didn't make it to where they liked him anymore. They saw him as the Kyuubi and nothing more, but he was knowledgeable as to why the villagers hated him, but every time he tried to meditate nothing happened, but he didn't know why. He'd have to figure that out for himself eventually. Hiruzen and Bawako smiled at the 2 siblings before glaring the sharpest of daggers at Hamura and Kaharu. Not a moment later Kushina came into the hallway to see the 2 siblings smiling at each other. Naruto-kun. Kushina shouted happily as she knelt down to hug the dirty blonde-haired boy. She, like her daughter, was wearing a pink kimono with white floral designs and her hair up in a ponytail. Hey, Ka-san, he said slowly as he wrapped his arms around her hesitantly. Tsunade should be in here to interrupt any moment now. Where have you been all day, Naruto-kun? She asked worriedly. I was training with Hiruzen-sama, he responded by making her take on another worried expression. Why didn't you ask to train with us? She asked with a raised eyebrow. That question made Hiruzen narrow his eyes at the woman. He shouldn't have to ask Kushina, he thought dangerously. Before Naruto could respond, Minato came around the corner with a pleasant smile on his face and 2 glasses of wine in hand. Hey, Kushina-chan, we're about to blow out the candles for Kimiko-chan. Oh, hey, Naruto-kun, he said, though both Bawako and Hiruzen caught a glint in the current Hokage's eyes as he looked at Kushina. He looks quite possessive when he looks at Kushina, they thought in unison before looking at each other. Hey, Tsunade, I was training with Hiruzen-sama today, and Minato cut his son off. That's great, Naruto-kun, but we have to blow out the candles now, he said before walking off to the large cake with Kushina in tow. Naruto looked hurt as he watched his two parents walk towards the cake. Kimiko looked sad as well as she followed them while looking at her older brother for 2 minutes. Every person at the party gathered around Kushina, Minato, and Kimiko, some searching for Naruto, i.e. the Uchihas, and Inuzukas. Minato-kun, what about Naruto? SHH, Kushina, we have to sing happy birthday to Kimiko-chan, Minato smiled back at her. Before Kushina could respond, Minato and the rest of the party started to sing. When the singing was over, Kushina was about to speak up to Minato before he told her to go get a camera for when Kimiko blew out the candles. Bawako and Hiruzen shared a look with each other. He leaned in closer to her. It's like he's controlling her, the aged Hokage whispered. Bawako had to nod in agreement. Bakoto, Tsume, Shisui, and the former two's respective children were thinking along the same path. Why isn't Naruto-kun not blowing out the candles, too? They thought as they shifted their gaze towards Naruto by the Sandaime and his wife. When Kushina returned with the camera she spoke. Minato-kun, what about Naruto? Come on, Kushina-chan, get ready to take the picture, he smiled politely. She wanted to protest but kept it in as she saw a happy-looking Minato and took a picture of the visibly sad Kimiko blowing out the candles. Naruto fought back tears that never came while people started talking again. 4 puffs of smoke appeared signifying a shunshin had been performed by 2 separate people. The smoke cleared for people to see none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin, a 20-year-old Kakashi Haddock, 15-year-old Kurenai Yuhi, and Anko Mitarashi. Uncle Jiraiya. Kakashi Nai. Kurenai ni, and Anko ni. Kimiko exclaimed, overjoyed they would come, her previous sadness gone. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Jiraiya smiled while Kimiko hugged him. Meanwhile, Kakashi, Anko, and Kurenai raised an eyebrow each as they put 2 and 2 together. Kimiko had just blown out the candles and Naruto was nowhere in sight. Kakashi had actually brought a gift for the boy this year. He got Kimiko and Naruto the same thing for gifts, but he had just got it that day so it was last minute. Anko and Kurenai each were worried about Naruto. They left the main building just after greeting Kimiko and their sensei, Kushina, to go look for Naruto. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked Kushina and Minato, of which the latter was oblivious to the boy's absence while the former scanned the crowd and gasped. Naruto truly was nowhere to be seen. He was usually with the Sandaime and his wife, but when he looked in their direction Bawako was silently crying and the Sandaime had a sad look on his face. Kushina was about to go look for Naruto when Minato called her over to discuss something with her. She relented while the present Uchiha family and Inuzuka family left in search for Naruto. Why? Why don't they notice me? Am I not good enough? Why does Tsunade do that? Does he hate me? Why? Why? Naruto cried on top of the roof of the guest house building nearby. Naruto sniffled as he wrapped his arms around his legs and stared at the moon. At least when Tsunade passed on the clan head status from himself to me like he and Kasan promised, maybe he'll notice me. Naruto tried to rationalize as he wiped away the tears. He sat there for a few minutes, simply thinking in the October air. Why are you crying, Naruto? The little boy turned to see a standing Shisui with a kind smile on his face. Shisui had charcoal eyes signature to the remainder of the Uchiha clan, round face, and curly yet spiky black hair. Naruto knew he was once an Anbu, only resigning from the captain position 3 years ago just after his 15th birthday. Shisui Nai? Naruto sniffled, making Shisui smile again. You got it, Shisui smiled as he ruffled Naruto's hair, making the blonde glare slightly. So why were you crying again? Shisui asked as he sat down next to Naruto. Naruto was silent as Shisui put an arm around his neck in a brotherly-like fashion. Come on, you can tell me anything, Shisui smiled again, making Naruto's eyes brighten. Well, I just have the feeling Tsunade is ignoring me, and every time Kasan tried to speak up, Tsunade would just ask her a question or ask for her to do something. It really hurts me. Shisui Nai, I know they used to train Kimiko-chan in favor of me so that she could use chakra chains like Kasan, but now I think Tsunade is doing it purposely and Kasan is oblivious to it, he explained as he felt Shisui tighten his grip on Naruto slightly as to protect him from something. Do you know why Tsunade is doing this, Shisui Nai? Naruto asked. Shisui shook his head after a moment. I don't know why, Naruto, but it has to be for a good reason. I don't know what, but it's got to be pretty good, Shisui said, making Naruto's eyes brighten again. He's right, Naruto-kun. Your father must have a good reason, Kurenai said from behind Naruto, making the boy's eyes go wide as he turned to see Anko and Kurenai, each in their usual provocative uniforms. Kurenai-chan, Anko-chan. Naruto said happily as he hugged the two blushing women. Meanwhile, Shisui's sweat dropped. The kid's gotta be bipolar or something, he chuckled internally. Hey, Naruto-kun, Anko smiled, making Naruto blush slightly. When I get to be a clan head, I'll get you Sang to acknowledge me. Naruto beamed, making the two and smile. Shisui picked up Naruto before the three jumped off the guest house roof to be face to face with a happy, impassive Isane, angry Sasuko, angry Hana, relieved Kiba, and ecstatic Tsume. Naruto-kun Naruto. They exclaimed before Makoto and Tsume hugged him to death between their respective bosoms, making Naruto turn beet red and for the present girls, save Isane, as she simply chuckled, to giggle at him. We were worried sick about you, Naruto-kun. The 28-year-old Makoto Uchiha said angrily. We were looking everywhere for you, Naruto-kun. Tsume added in making the kids, save Isane, to start yelling at him for running out of his own birthday like a meanie. I'm sorry, Tsume-chan, Makoto-chan, I just had to think about something, he said as he cast Shisui, Kurenai, and Anko knowing glances. Well, tell someone when you're gonna leave like that, Naruto Nai. Kiba and Hana exclaimed, making Naruto nod at the duo. You're inconsiderate of what people think about you, Naruto-kun. We care about you, Isane chimed, making Naruto blush. What Isane said. Sasuko said, making Naruto smile at her, making a blush appear on the 8-year-old's cheeks. You're not big enough to go out by yourself, Naruto-kun. What if those mean villagers would be out here? Makoto said, making Naruto pout. When I get big and when I'm clan head someday, I'll show him who's boss. Naruto exclaimed, making the women giggle, save Isane, as she just smirked and for Shisui to shake his head. They all knew that ever since the Namikaze clan was instated thanks to Minato's swift release, Naruto wanted to be clan head, as was customary for every first son of the clan head. Naruto wanted nothing more than to be a good clan head for their future Uzumaki Namikaze clan, though their conjunction hadn't gone into effect yet. Hell, even Kimiko and Kushina knew that it was his biggest dream. Let's get back to the party, nah. We haven't given you our gifts yet, Naruto, Shisui said, making Naruto nod at him with a smile. Barry entered the main house to find Kushina and Kimiko to run over and hug Naruto before bonking him on the head independently. Tell someone when you're going out, Naruto-kun Nai. They exclaimed though no one at the party paid them any mind. Okay, Kimiko-chan, Ka-san, he responded by making them hug him again. Minato appeared at Kushina's and Kimiko's side a moment later. Kimiko-chan, Kushina-chan, I have something I want to tell everyone, he smiled at them. Alright, I'll just bring Naruto-kun along, Kushina started. Come on, Kushina-chan, time's a-wastin'. He smiled at her, making her nod reluctantly. Naruto was visibly saddened but brightened up when Shisui put a hand on his shoulder. Minato stood in front of the whole party with Kimiko and Kushina on either side of him. If I could have your attention, everyone, Minato started with a smile on his face. Everyone quieted down, then Minato started again. As all of you know, when I noticed I had the swift release, some of my less favorable on the civilian council wanted to put me under Kra and I declined in a heartbeat, he said, making Kushina's heart flutter and for some to go awe at the words. Since the Namikaze clan has been instated, it has wanted to join to the Uzumaki clan, he smiled at Kushina, and I would like to announce that I have made my decision for Kimiko Uzumaki Namikaze to be the clan heir for the future conjunction of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, he smiled while Kushina, Kakashi, Anko, Kurenai, and Kimiko each went wide-eyed. The less knowledgeable of the gathered crowd clapped for Kimiko, except for Bawako, Hiruzen, the Uchiha family, and Inyazuka family, as well as for those groups to lock their eyes onto Naruto. Naruto didn't move, he didn't breathe for what felt like eternity, though in reality it was only a minute. A very, very long minute. Shisui was gripping Naruto's shoulder so hard there would definitely be a bruise. Naruto's breathing started to accelerate, as well as for his heartbeat to rise. He was visibly starting to hyperventilate as he then bolted for the door making many yell after him. No one saw the Tomo spinning in the eyes of the crying boy as he ran. Present, Naruto hid from the entire village for 2 years in the forest of death. Tsume was sending Inyazuka tracking teams every day after him, as well as for the entire Uchiha family to look for him. Anko, Kurenai, and Kakashi would each look for him as well. Bawako would cry daily, and Hiruzen would look also. The Sandane was the best sensor type in Konoha, and with all the chakra-enhanced bugs and animals, as well as the chakra-blocking trees. After 1 month of constantly bawling her eyes out, Kushina would look at Kimiko. When Kushina would get back from a mission, she would resume looking until she was about to pass out from chakra exhaustion, and even then it was only Kimiko that dragged her back, saying they would look the next day. The shrubbery located all around the Forest of Death gave off distinct smells that screwed with Inuzuka trackers. Minato, however, did not do a damn thing. 6 months after Naruto's disappearance, Kushina came to her senses after reviewing what had started since Naruto was 5. She then promptly halted the conjunction of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans and the divorced Minato 1 month later, taking half of his money, half of their belongings, Kimiko herself, and all Uzumaki-related things in the home, including though Minato had already reviewed most, and they moved to the opposite side of Konoha into a simple 2-story home next to the Uchihas, though the latter's was a little larger than theirs, but that was only because more people had to live there. And Minato couldn't say a damn thing, because the newly proclaimed Uzumaki clan was under the Uchiha clan protection along with Inuzuka, so Minato couldn't touch them. And Kushina still didn't know why Minato would do that, but she would figure it out one day. When Naruto returned, he was much colder. He never referred to anyone with chan, ni, nai, or kun. He simply referred to them with their last name or first name with san depending on his mood. The only people he showed remote affection to were the Sarutobis. Naruto was angry at Kushina because she wouldn't speak up and was angry at Kimiko for not speaking out against Minato. He suffered because of their gutlessness and they both accepted that. They simply wanted their brother and son back. Back to more pressing matters, Naruto entered the classroom clothed in black shinobi pants, black boot-like sandals, black gloves, and a long-sleeved shirt with the sleeves rolled up to about mid-forearm. He also had a tanto strapped to his back thanks to Shisui giving it to him when he returned. Naruto's physical appearance was the most handsome face that any woman, even Kimiko herself, would say. He was downright gorgeous. Naruto didn't get his looks from his father. Kimiko actually didn't know where he got his looks. Well, Kimiko got her looks from her father, spiky hair, and mother, roundish face. Naruto also had long, black hair with streaks of black in it that ended at his lower back. "Naruto, you're late again," Haruka said to the blonde, slightly irritated at him for constantly being late, but yet the boy always slept in class, was late, but he was rookie of the year, and has excellent grades. "I am sorry, Yumino-sensei, I was up late last night training." "My apologies," Naruto bowed slightly to the instructor. "Alright, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is here," he paused as he looked into the furious eyes of Naruto. "Alright, just Naruto," he said, as he put down his clipboard after marking Naruto's name from absent to tardy. Naruto sat in the very top of the room with his tanto on his desk and with his arms crossed. There was also no one on the desk beside him. He leaned back and fell into the land of dreams 2 minutes later, but no one noticed. Haruka did, but didn't antagonize the genius because he knew no matter how much Naruto slept, he would make near-perfect scores on the next test. Sasuke, Kiba, Hana, and Kimiko averted their eyes from Haruka to Naruto, and they all frowned. "Where did the old Naruto go? Why are you near, Kiri, brother?" Naruto asked the slightly older Uchiha standing in front of him, simply gazing at the clouds. "Maybe because we can." Black Zetsu retorted sarcastically with a smirk, while Naruto remained unfazed and impassive. The 4 of them were currently near Kurigakure in a training ground, to be more precise. They were in a clearing with a path adjacent to them that most likely led to the village. "I think Naruto-sama is trying to be sentimental. These could be his last friendly moments with his brother," White Zetsu said, making Black Zetsu roll his yellow eyes. "Do you remember those times after I unlocked my Mangekyo that I would leave Kamui for a certain amount of time and come back?" Obito asked, making Naruto nod. "Their Mizukage is the 3 tails, and I have been controlling him to exterminate anyone with a bloodline for 7 years. I am merely going back to my job." "You? Why are you trespassing?" Obito chuckled, as well as Naruto. The 2 brothers simply stared at each other before Naruto uncrossed one of his arms and offered a hand to Obito. "I wish you good luck," Naruto said neutrally. "And I hope you don't die until we can face off," Obito chuckled. Naruto cracked a smirk as Obito shook his hand. Naruto unfurled the other hand before turning around and walking off. "Today, Nai-san, we are friends, but after today, we are enemies. Good luck, and may the best sibling win," Naruto spoke as he disappeared in the trees with White Zetsu following close behind. Obito stood there before turning around and said some words to no one in particular. "Foolish little brother, Akio-Sama wanted you to win." Naruto jumped from tree to tree with White Zetsu following close behind. The 2 were currently jumping over a swamp with the trees being over 50 yards high. One misstep and one would plummet to the quicksand under the water below. It was daytime, hot, humid, and misty, the exact opposite of how Naruto liked the weather. He liked the cool, nighttime, and clear weather. He enjoyed the occasional drizzle of rain now and then, but too much, and it got annoying. It didn't interfere with his daily life, as it just became a bother after so much of it. Naruto also enjoyed nighttime strolls when he wasn't in the Kamui dimension training, as the night usually led to his most interesting encounters. The encounters weren't always sexual, it just seemed that the night was when the world was truly alive. Whether it was how singular people acted or how the world acted in general. It just seemed to be awake at night, ironically. He never really understood what appealed to him about the night. Was it the stars? Was it the moon? He didn't really know. He figured it was the vastness of the expanse of space that appealed to him. The freedom and mystery the night could hold. People were often afraid of the night because of what they couldn't see, what they couldn't expect, what they couldn't observe from afar and then react to. It was sort of like him in a way, one glance, and he was a 15-year-old in crimson armor, another, and he would be holding his sickle to your throat. Just that alone, the pure predictableness of how people would react to him appearing on the battlefield was something that could mean their deaths. Naruto did, however, have to cut them some slack that not all 15-year-olds held the kind of power he had. And he would have more when he received the memories from the blood clone. The possible 15 years of knowledge from the professor himself excited Naruto somewhat. Naruto was curious as to how his clone grew up with a mother, father, sister, and had already made plans to not interact with anyone when he got to Konoha. He would simply go to where his grandfather specified, which was to go to the Sarutobi compound and meet with Hiruzen. It could possibly lead to consequences if it was discovered by anyone other than the Sandaime that there were two Narutos, and it would mean big trouble for his plan. Naruto then thought about Konoha, the place where he would undoubtedly be spending most of his time for the foreseeable future. He reeled in disgust at the place. Learning about Konoha from someone else's point of view, and you tend to just shake your head in shame at the place. Naruto could tell his grandfather's views were biased, but he could tell it was also 90% true. Why on earth would one give away tailed beasts? To appease other villages? Ludicrous. Hashirama could have easily built an empire being in control of them, but he just had to be on somewhat of a level playing field with the other villages. The first Hokage truly was stupid. The second Hokage abandoned the place of his other clan's birth, Yuzashii Agakure. Konoha's views on trust, friendship, and allies must have been very, very distorted during Tobirama's reign. The third hadn't made too many mistakes other than being a spineless ruler, though Naruto knew Tobirama's rule gave the civilians more power than they should have had. Naruto would make his views on the fourth Hokage, his father, when he got to Konoha, though for some reason, the young Uchiha could tell they would be bad. Naruto and Zetsu continued to jump from branch to branch until the two saw a path with solid land on the opposite side of the swamp. From their position high in the trees, they could also see the ocean. Surely there was a dock nearby. If not, he would simply water walk to the mainland. So you really did know where you were going, Naruto-sama, Zetsu chuckled as the two landed on the path. The path seemed stable for it being so close to a swamp, so the two decided to start walking, Naruto extending his senses to try and feel for any other chakra signatures. Zetsu, Naruto spoke, as the two walked before crossing his arms, the plant snapping his gaze towards his master. Yes, Naruto-sama. Zetsu responded submissively. I want you to scout ahead and find Tsunade Senju. She will be the one to transplant the eyes, Naruto spoke, making Zetsu take on a questioning expression. Why would she do that, Naruto-sama? If she sees the Sharingan then surely she will refuse. She might have encountered your blood clone in Konoha, and knowing who you are, Zetsu explained his worries. From what I have learned, the Senju have a gambling addiction coupled with a very large debt. I will simply pay her, and she will accept or her debt will continue to rise. And it is unlikely that she has met my blood clone. She hasn't been in Konoha for 12 years, and she has not had the best relations with the current Hokage, Naruto responded making Zetsu smile. Brilliant as ever, Naruto-sama, White Zetsu responded with a nod. I will flare my chakra once a day so you will know where I am. And hurry. I wish to transplant them as soon as possible, Naruto spoke, making Zetsu nod immediately. The plant liked being merged with the ground a moment later, and then he was gone. After a moment Naruto spoke. Suck up, he muttered as he closed his eyes and kept walking along the path. After a moment of walking, Naruto's senses picked up a large amount of signatures. At least 20 of them possessed the same type of chakra, while there was another pair that had unique signatures. Naruto grew curious, as it seemed that the 20 or so similar chakra signatures held malice for the other two. The two unique ones had large chakra reserves, one being very, very large at high cage, while the other had elite Anbu reserves. The 20 and smaller reserves seemed to be clashing against the larger reserve. Naruto opened his eyes only to speed off in the direction of where the battle was ensuing. He merely wanted to observe the battle. When Naruto arrived he saw a field with many dead bodies littering it, kunai, shuriken, and other ninja tools littering it. The grass seemed fairly wet, so it was safe to assume that many water techniques were used recently. He looked further up the clearing to see the 20 chakra signatures surrounding what he guessed were the two larger reservations. He jumped to the upper part of the clearing to a tall tree to overlook them. There were at least 20 Kiri Anbu surrounding two women who looked a little worse for wear. One was tall, towering at least 6'3", light blue skin, blue lips, and gill-like slits under her amber eyes. She had a cute nose, long, semi-wavy, navy blue hair that reached right under her shoulders with bangs curving to their right on her forehead and another bang covering her left temple that reached the top of her cheekbone. She had a great complexion with a nice hergless figure. Her bust was at least a DD cup with a black skin-tight shirt covering it reaching above her belly button. She also wore skin-tight blue shinobi pants that hugged her hips. Her last article of clothing consisted of a pair of blue sandals. In her hand she had a large sword with a golden hilt with a skull at the pommel. The sword itself was covered mostly in bandages, with the last quarter of it showing reaching the top. The non-covered bandages showed blue scale-like appendages on the sword. The other woman had long, wavy, auburn hair that covered her right eye and reached her lower back, along with a set of hazel eyes, fair-colored skin, blue-painted lips, cute nose, and a top bun. She had a modest stature of 5'8" with a D-cup upai size. She wore a long-sleeved dark blue dress that fell just below the knees. It seemed to be closed at the front with a zip and was kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covered up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her upais. Underneath that she wore a mesh armor that covered slightly more of her upper body than her dress. She also wore shorts in the same color as her dress and, underneath those, fishnet leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wore a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left, along with lavender-colored high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees and blue nail polish on her fingernails and toenails. Naruto grew curious as to why these 20 Anbu were trying so desperately to undoubtedly kill these two women. Naruto then went to a realization of what his brother said hours before. So these two must have a bloodline. Interesting, he thought, as he grew curious as to what the women possessed as a bloodline. Imton. Imkai no Jutsu. Lava release. Melting apparition technique, the auburn-haired woman shouted as she blew lava in the air that traveled down onto a couple unsuspecting Anbu, instantly incinerating them. Before 3 more Anbu leaped at her with their tantos drawn. She flipped in the air just as one nipped her hair, making a few strands fly off. The blue-skinned woman swung her giant, large sword towards another set of Anbu, shredding them thanks to the saw-like properties of the sword. The blue-skinned woman jumped back as several kunai flew her way and they impacted the ground. Gashoku's aim. Water release. 5 feeding sharks, she called out as she placed her hand on an exceptionally large puddle of water, most likely created by previous water-based attacks. Not a moment later 5 sharks materialized out of the water and barreled to the closest target and started to encircle him. Screams were heard as he was immediately shredded by the brute yet effective. The auburn-haired woman sent out another stream of lava as 4 more Anbu rushed her. Die, bloodline scum. One shouted as he phased out of existence with a puff of smoke, signifying he disappeared in a shunshin. The woman's lava impacted 2 Anbu, effectively decommissioning them, while the third jumped out of the way before launching a Fuma shuriken at her. She ducked under the chunk of metal before delivering a devastating kick to an Anbu in the leg, snapping it before she shoved a kunai she had in her pouch through the bottom of his chin. She smirked in victory just as the other Anbu that was left earlier jumped out of a nearby tree with Nadachi in hand, bringing it in a downward motion on top of her. She looked up and her eyes widened before spewing lava in her hand and letting it harden. Naruto looked at the scene as an obsidian sword came into existence. She brought the sword up to defend herself, effectively parrying the Nadachi-wielding Anbu. The Anbu jumped back just as the woman swung her sword to his side. Another 2 Anbu sprang to action and appeared right in front of her, both flying through hand seals before slamming their hands on a puddle they were in. Shuriken no Jutsu, water release. Water dragon jutsu, they yelled in sync just as large water dragons came to life out of the water. They were considerably smaller because of the amount of water, but they were still towering over her at 1.5 stories. Her eyes widened as she had no time to react. The water dragons crashed their way into her at breakneck speeds, sending her flying into the air before impacting the ground. Mei. The blue-skinned woman shouted before she growled and impacted another Anbu with her, effectively ending his life. She slammed her hands on another puddle as more sharks formed, shredding yet another Anbu before 3 on the Kirin phased in front of her with their tanto drawn. She growled in annoyance just as one Anbu jumped on her back. She huffed as she simply fell back onto him, breaking ribs. She flipped up just as the remaining 9 Anbu encircled her. They each drew and flung them at her, hitting joints, making her temporarily paralyzed. Shit, she muttered as she felt her body go numb. She dropped her large sword. Bloodline scum, one muttered as he dragged the blue-skinned woman by the hair to where the now tied-up Mei was located. I thought it was going to be more entertaining than that, Naruto muttered as he continued to watch, his arms crossed. He then closed his eyes and sighed as he heard a click behind him, signifying he had been found, though he had been leaking out chakra purposely. Now what do we have here? The single Anbu muttered behind his mask. Naruto didn't respond as he phased behind the Anbu, a small amount of blood dripping from the sickle now in his hand. What we have is your death, Naruto responded quietly as the head of the Anbu dropped to the ground along with the body. The 8 remaining Anbu encircled the 2 tied-up women, 2 with their tanto drawn, ready to decapitate the women. Well, Kusamu-chan, it looks like we're in a bit of a jam here, Mei smiled weakly to her childhood friend. Looks like it, eh Mei-chan? Kusamu grinned, revealing her shark-like teeth. Any last words, bloodline scum? One Anbu said to the 2 kneeling women. We've been talking for the last 10 seconds. You're not too bright, are ya? Kusamu spit on his mask. You wretch. I'll have to take baths just to get your bloodline filth off of me. He yelled at her before slapping her across the face. Don't you touch her, Mei yelled while her chakra suppression seal burned on her back, signifying she was trying to use chakra at the moment. And what are you going to do about it, whore? The other Anbu said. Mei growled just as an Anbu making up a circle outside them yelled out something. "Daicho captain. One of ours just fell out of a tree headless." The Anbu yelled, making the captain's eyes widen. Someone else is here. Get prepared. He yelled just as a sickle with a chain attached to it appeared next to his neck. One slight jerking motion later and he was kneeling and his head was on the ground. While another yelled out just as a chakra disruption blade found itself in his heart. He looked down at it before raising his hands to try and remove it. Blood gurgled out of his mask before he fell to the ground, dead. Where is he? I can't sense him. One yelled as the other 5 Anbu scanned the area as well. What they got was a chuckle in return. They each turned around, as well as the 2 prisoners, to see a handsome blonde man dressed in crimson armor with sickle in hand and gunbai in the other. The gunbai was black in color, with 2 sets of 3 red tomo on both sections of it. It also had a black chain extending from it to the blonde man's sleeve. You killed Taicho. One yelled as he charged the blonde man. Naruto merely shifted his gaze to the right of him to see the Anbu charging him. He rolled his eyes as the tanto the Anbu had phased through him. The Anbu looked at his hands and sword to not see any blood. How, he was cut off as a sickle embedded itself in his back. Pitiful Naruto spoke. Anbu are weak just as expected. The remaining 5 Anbu looked at each other before 3 phased out of existence with puffs of smoke in their wake. Tsuriken no Jutsu, Naruto heard 2 voices yell behind him to see 2 one-story and half-tall water dragons rocketing towards him. Naruto turned on heel before swinging his gunbai at the 2 water dragons, repelling them both, thus turning them into large quantities of water. The Anbu went wide-eyed as Naruto shifted his gaze to the other 2 Anbu behind him. He swung sickle, the chain lengths extending as it got further away from him. The 2 Anbu that were charging him stopped to defend but went wide-eyed at what happened next. Naruto jerked the sickle back slightly, making it fly over the 2 hostages' heads and then behind him to decapitate one of the Anbu that had launched the water dragon at him, making the other gasp. Naruto looked up and left before swinging his fan, making a large gust of air be produced before it flew at a singular Anbu with an adachi in hand, making him fly backward. The 2 Anbu behind Naruto jumped in the air before hailing a multitude of kunai and shuriken at him. Naruto raised his fan above his head, blocking all of them. The Anbu above landed on either side of Naruto before Naruto ducked with his fan still above him. The slight twitch of his left wrist and it was over for the 2 Anbu as Naruto's sickle reeled back and bisecting one Anbu before the other was kicked in the air by Naruto. Naruto's chain wrapped around the length of the Anbu with a sickle ending at his head, effectively decapitating him. Naruto flicked his wrist towards himself, making the chain unwrap around the body. Naruto caught the sickle in his hand with it dripping even more blood than before. Naruto looked at the 2 tied-up women before putting his gunbai on his back. Though he did throw his sickle behind him to a nearby tree. All 3 could hear it cut through flesh. A second later, after the sickle retracted, the legs and torso fell from the tree with an adachi clinking to the ground as well. So weak, Naruto muttered as he put the sickle on his hip. He walked over to where the fallen was before picking it up. He noticed that the scales seemed to retract a bit further toward the sword. He walked calm over to where the 2 shell-shocked women were still tied up. He thought something as he looked at the sword. I want one, he thought with an internal chuckle. Naruto planted the sword on the ground before going behind the 2 women silently before untying them. Thank you, Mei said slowly as she rubbed her wrists before gazing up at the handsome blonde man. Naruto remained silent as he untied Kusamu's bindings. Yeah, thanks I guess, Kusamu said as she stood up before plucking out of her joints. Naruto's stature of 5'9" seemed kind of small compared to this woman's. She walked over to her precious Amahata and put a hand on it before retracting back slightly. She then looked at the blonde man starting to walk away. His chakra is so dark, she thought, as chills ran up and down her spine. Wait, Mei called out, making the blonde man stop. Can we at least know your name? She asked. My name is none of your concern, Naruto replied. Aren't you just a ray of sunshine, Kusamu said, making Naruto roll his eyes before resuming to walk. Damn it, wait, Mei said as she grabbed onto his sleeve. Before she could even register it, Naruto had his sickle in her throat. "Don't touch me," he said simply while she just looked at him wide-eyed. Kusamu tensed as she looked at him. Naruto retracted his sickle before crossing his arms. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want you to train us," she blurted out, making him raise an eyebrow and for Kusamu to drop her jaw. "You can't be serious, Mei-chan," she yelled. Naruto ignored the 21-year-old blue-haired woman before looking directly at the 20-year-old Mei. "Why would I want to train you? Because you're strong. You took care of those Anbu like it was nothing," she responded adamantly. "If I'm strong then that makes you weak," Naruto responded, hoping to dissuade her. She was getting very annoying and he was on a schedule. "Hey, asshole, shut up," Kusamu started but was cut off. "Yes, we're weak. But we want to be strong, so can you please train us?" she asked pleadingly. Kusamu looked at Mai with wide eyes. Naruto looked at her for a moment before asking her another question. "What would you do with the strength I could give you?" he asked her. "We would come back here and help fight with the bloodline rebels," she responded immediately. She was very firm in her belief that it was her duty to help the other bloodline rebels fight to overthrow the current Mizukage. "Come here," Naruto said impassively as he looked at Kusamu with a lazy, half-lidded gaze. She watched before sitting Samehada on her back. She then walked over to Naruto and Mai before crossing her arms. "Why do you fight for those that have bloodlines?" he asked both of them. "Because the Mizukage hates bloodlines and we have bloodlines. That's why," Kusamu said with an even gaze. After a moment Naruto spoke. "Is that all?" he said, making their eyes widen. "What's that supposed to mean?" It was Mai's turn to make an outburst. "What I mean, is that all? Here's an example. Did he kill your family, did his troops?" They shook their heads no. "Did he rape you personally or did his troops?" Again, no. "Did he steal from you?" No. "Did he do anything aside from try to kill you?" Nope. "Then what are your reasons?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "His troops tried to kill us," Kusamu shouted. "And people try to kill me a majority of the time. It doesn't mean I try to fight them just because I feel like I have a duty to," Naruto said as he closed his eyes. Kusamu and Mai stood in silence for a few minutes. "Then where will we go?" Mei asked quietly as she looked at the ground. Kusamu surprisingly remained silent. "Anywhere in the elemental nations, Kumo, as they have a love for bloodlines, Suna, as they would love a lava bloodline. Be mercenaries, prostitutes for all I care," Naruto responded coldly as he was quickly becoming annoyed. Mei and Kusamu rolled their eyes at the last comment as they seemed to pick up on the man in front of him being naturally cold. Mei perked up as she thought of something. "Does anywhere mean we can come with you?" she asked, making Naruto glare at her. He sighed as he turned around and began to walk. He might as well humor them as the one with auburn hair did not seem to want to give up any time soon. "I have one requirement, which is to be quiet," he said, making a fake Kusamu salute at him. "You got it, boss," she said with a toothy grin, making him grunt in annoyance. "So what's your name, boss?" Mei giggled as she caught up with Naruto with her blue-skinned companion not far behind. "Naruto," he said simply as he dusted off his clothes before crossing his arms. "So, Naruto-kun, what do you like to do?" Mei asked politely. Naruto remained silent. "Looks like our sensei is a real charmer," Kusamu muttered dryly with a small smirk, making Naruto sigh again. "Why are you here again?" Kushina stated coldly as she and Minato stood outside the academy. The latter was wearing his usual attire while she was wearing a pair of black shinobi pants with blue sandals, red shinobi long-sleeve shirt and a katana at her hip with her forehead protector being around her bicep. Minato looked at her out of the corner of his eye and then averted his gaze back to the academy main entrance. "I'm here to greet our daughter," he responded evenly. "And what about our son?" Kushina said as she glared at Minato outright. "He's no longer our son, remember? He stopped being mine 10 years ago and yours at 7, Minato explained to her, not bothering to meet her gaze. "Now he's basically Sandame's second son," he added, making a pang of pain go through her heart. "Why do you hate him so much? What did he do to you?" Kushina almost yelled. Minato looked her right in the eye. "He stole something from me," he responded. Kushina looked confused as to what Naruto could have possibly stolen from her ex-husband. Before she could say anything, a voice called out. "Ah-chan, Tusan." Kimiko called out as Minato turned to her and smiled. "Hey Kimiko-chan," Minato smiled at her as he picked her up in a hug with a friendly smile on his face. "Tusan, how have you been?" she asked as she was put down. "Just busy with work and all," he chuckled with a smile. "You're still coming over this weekend, right? We can work on the Rasengan some more then," he smiled at her, making her nod repeatedly. "Of course, Tusan." She smiled. A moment later, a cat mask Anbu landed next to the three in a kneeling position. "Okage-sama, the Kazukiage is here to discuss the technicalities of the Chunin exams. He requests your presence immediately," the Anbu said in a distinct feminine voice. "Alright, I'll see you this weekend then, Kimiko-chan," he smiled at her before leaving in a yellow flash. Even after the divorce, Kimiko tried to act as a bridge between her mother and father. She knew that they would never get back together, but she loved them both and couldn't be without both of them in her life, them and Naruto. Kushina rolled her eyes in an annoyed manner. It was always like Minato to show off. Hey, Ka-chan, can I go with Hana-chan? Info-chan, Hinata-chan, and Sasuko-chan to Akimichi Barbek. I got the money so, is that alright? She asked with a beaming smile. Of course, Kimiko-chan, but I've got a question for you, Kushina said to her daughter, making Kimiko snap her full attention to her mother. How's Naruto-kun been doing in class? She asked timidly. The same, as always Ka-chan, she responds dejectedly. He's always late for class with the same excuse that he was training and slept in. When he gets there, he goes back to sleep only to wake up during tests and then makes nearly perfect grades on them. When we go outside to train, as a class, he stands there with his eyes closed. When it's his turn he dominates who he gets paired with. He got paired with Sasuko-chan a couple weeks ago and knocked her out not 5 seconds later with one hit. Then that at least means he didn't want to hurt her, Kushina deduced making Kimiko nod. That's what me, Sasuko-chan, and Hana-chan thought too, Kimiko responded. Kushina smiled at her daughter before kissing her on the forehead. Try to get through to him, okay? Kushina smiled, making Kimiko nod immediately. I try every day, she smiled. Kimiko-chan, your mom says it's alright, Ino shouted from about 20 feet away from Kimiko, making the young Uzumaki look over to her blonde friend before smiling and nodding. Kimiko saw Hana, Sasuko, and Hinata with Ino. I'll see you tonight, Ka-chan. Kimiko called out as she ran over to catch up with her friends. Kushina smiled at Kimiko as her gaze traveled over to the academy, seeing all the children piling out with their parents waiting for them. You're looking for Naruto-kun, aren't you? A voice said behind Kushina for her to turn around and see Tsume and Makoto standing there, the latter with a sad smile on her face and the former with her arms crossed and a sad expression. Tsume wore her usual attire, which consisted of her flak jacket, black long-sleeve shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on both of the arms and sleeves rolled up to mid-forearm. She also wore black, slightly baggy shinobi pants with tape going from her ankle to mid-shin. She also wore blue shinobi sandals. Makoto wore black, skin-tight shinobi pants with black sandals and navy blue long-sleeve skin-tight shirt with a katana on her right hip. She and Kushina were the top partners in Konoha, so they decided to dress the part, Kushina wearing red and Makoto blue. Yeah, I guess I am, Kushina chuckled with a sheepish smile on her face. Did you kids say anything about Naruto when you asked? She asked. What did Kimiko-chan say? Tsume asked, as she wanted to compare what Kiba and Hana said first. She said that he comes to class late every other day with the excuse that he was training late and overslept. He sleeps during class and only wakes up for tests and to go outside for some exercises. When they spar he demolishes his opponents, Kushina said, making Makoto chuckle at the last part. Sasuko-chan's been pushing herself every day after that, she said, making the three women chuckle. That's basically what Kiba and Hana said, Tsume responded. Same with Sasuko, Makoto muttered. The three were silent before Tsume's sharp eyesight caught a window opening on the side of the academy before seeing Naruto jump out of it onto a nearby branch. Would he jump out of the window? Tsume asked herself though Makoto and Kushina caught it. What do you mean? They asked in tandem. Naruto, he just jumped out of the window and then into the forest, Tsume responded as she jumped to a nearby tree just outside the window with Kushina and Makoto following. Their eyes widened as they saw one of the academy teachers, Suzume, bared out on her desk, her hair a mess, glasses off, pants off, and shirt to either side exposing her upace. It was obvious that she had just had X, as Tsume could smell the musk. She was clearly panting, and one could see her snatch with neatly trimmed black hair above it, with semen leaking from it. Kushina, Makoto, and Tsume were each blushing madly, as it was obvious Naruto had just had X with one of his teachers. That hussy. I should get a lawyer on her ass for defiling a child, my child. Kushina sputtered in outrage. As much as I would love for you to do that, Kushina, you can't do that. Neither you nor Minato are his guardians anymore, and Sandaime-sama would just give Naruto a pat on the wrist if we took this to him. Only he can press charges, and once he sees that Naruto consented, he won't punish him, Makoto said, as she averted her eyes from the scene. Kushina sighed, as if it was true. Only the clan heads and the Hokage knew about Naruto's secret induction into the Sarutobi clan after he returned from the Forest of Death. As much as she and Minato wanted to argue, Hiruzen would ruin their reputations by charges of child neglect if they didn't let him be inducted. The part about the threat was behind closed doors of course, but Makoto and Tsume knew, but they didn't blame Kushina. I just hope he's being safe in all this, Kushina muttered as Tsume patted her on the back. It's alright, Kushina-chan, and hey, maybe I'll try him out one day, she cackled with a wink, making Kushina sputter. He's obviously good at it if he can make a woman look like that, she said, as they looked at the exhausted and panting Suzume. Kushina grumbled as she blushed at the thought of Naruto making Tsume howl and moan his name. Naruto was very handsome and he looked to be good in bed. Deska, bad Kushina. She scolded herself in the end. While you two are conversing on Kushina's child's ex-life, I'm going to try and find Naruto. Mikoto rolled her eyes as she jumped to another tree in the direction Naruto was heading. Tsume cackled while Kushina huffed before they followed Mikoto also. But Naruto sighed as he thought of his evasion and stealth skills. They obviously needed work if he didn't see his birth mother and her friends there. He picked them up as soon as he entered the woods by the academy. He sat on a hill with one leg hanging from it and the other one brought up and cupped around his arms, knee at his chin, simply thinking. This was his favorite place to think, as it was the only place aside from the Hokage monuments that peered over the village walls. He often thought about the day's events or how hollow he felt inside. It was like he was missing something. He couldn't think of anything he was missing. He didn't desire a relationship with a woman. He didn't desire acceptance, he didn't desire anything. He knew it wasn't his hormones, as he kept them sated with X. He was content with what he had, which was a mother or grandmother figure, a father or grandfather figure, a sibling, and a friend he found in Asuma. He didn't want to rekindle his old relationship with his friends and blood family. Did he desire to be stronger? Of course, but he knew that wasn't it. He was snatched from his thoughts as his ear twitched as he heard a rustling behind him. He didn't look behind him because he knew it was his birth mother, Tsume, and Mikoto. How may I help you today, Uzumaki-san, Inyazuka-san, and Uchiha-san? Naruto asked casually as he let his other leg hang off the cliff before putting his arms behind him to support him. He had long laid his tanto beside him so it wouldn't be awkward sitting down. Kushina visibly flinched as she heard him call her Uzumaki-san. Mikoto rubbed her back soothingly as the three of them came into full view to see Naruto with his long mane of hair swaying with a wing atop the large hill. Tsume and Mikoto were faring no better as they heard him say that to them. They inwardly smiled as they remembered the boy who called them Mikoto-chan and Tsume-chan. Now it was replaced with someone with a much colder heart. How was your day at school, Naruto-kun? Kushina smiled shyly as she gazed at the back of his head. Naruto didn't respond. I hope it was good. Kimiko-chan and I are doing well at home. She just finished her second pathway on Uzumaki Kenjutsu. She stopped immediately as she saw Naruto turn his head to where his left eye was visible and look at her directly. She remembered when Naruto asked her when he was 7 to train with Kimiko in Kenjutsu, but Minato had quickly averted her that the stress relief aspect of training with your sword could also help even out emotions. Mikoto and Tsume saw how Naruto reacted when Kushina mentioned the Kenjutsu and frowned as they remembered Naruto talking to them about that particular event. After a minute, Kushina decides to speak again. Naruto-kun, we know what you did earlier to the teacher, she said, hoping to draw out at least some emotion from him. Yes, and? He asked her as he continued to gaze out over the forest below. It's wrong and you shouldn't be having X at your age, Kushina berated him, making him chuckle. Now, you want to become my mother? He responded evenly, making her eyes widen. I was your mother. Kushina yelled back as her eyes began to water. Yes, a mother who put the needs of her daughter and happiness of her now ex-husband in front of her son. A mother who was too much of a coward to stand up for said son, Naruto responded to her. Mikoto and Tsume wanted to protest, but Naruto seemed to have prepared for this moment with facts so they couldn't argue. Kushina cried silently as both Tsume and Mikoto put comforting hands on her shoulders. Naruto then spoke up as he stood up before crossing his arms to look at the late afternoon sun. Does Kimiko-san know? Naruto asked her, though all three older women raised an eyebrow. Know what, Naruto-kun? She asked as she wiped her eyes. About the Kyuubi sealed inside her gut, he asked her as he turned on heel to see each of them wide-eyed. I meditate daily and not once have I found a shred of the Kyuubi's existence. I've meditated so much that I've even developed a mindscape to where I can access all of my memories. I've read Mito-sama's notes on how she visited Kyuubi during her imprisonment inside of her. And I have also traveled my mindscape and have not found the 9 tails. It seems my father spat out the word like it was acid and wanted a scapegoat so Kimiko-san could live a peaceful life. Naruto-kun, you're not going to tell the villagers, are you? Mikoto asked the blonde-haired boy, no, man, in front of her. He had proved to her that he was more than worthy of that title earlier. Tsume merely watched him to see if any of the old Naruto was still in there. The one that she adored. Naruto looked at her before walking past her, his arms still crossed as he walked. He stopped just as the trees and shrubbery began. No, I won't. I refuse to let her live the life I did, and it's not like any villager would believe the Kyuubi brat anyways, he said as he walked forward again. Oh, and Uchiha-san said to Mikoto, making her look at the man. Yes, Naruto-kun. She responded to him as she looked at the back of his head. Please tell your oldest daughter to stop spying on me when I train. It gets rather annoying to hide so many things from her, he said, making her go wide-eyed. An academy student sensing an ex-anbu? That was never heard of. And, Uzumaki-san, I am not stupid. I perform an anti-impregnation after every time I have X, he told her before he disappeared in a smokeless shunshin. A moment later Kushina fell to the ground weeping as both Mikoto and Tsume knelt down beside her. Damn you, Minato, damn you. This is all your fault. She yelled as she slammed her fists on the ground repeatedly. With Kimiko and Ko, the five of them had just walked into Akimichi Barbeck and were immediately met with a friendly waiter. He was obviously not an Akimichi, as he lacked the sufficient mass to equate one to their clan status, but each of the friends knew that Choza, the owner and current head of Akimichi clan, hired non-Akimichi, so other clan members could carry out more tasks throughout their clan. And how may I help you, Hyuga-sama, Namikaze-sama, and Uchiha-sama? The waiter asked with a friendly smile. He was an average-looking man with a shaved head, apron on, white button-up, and khaki slacks with black dress shoes. Hana and Ino rolled their eyes at how they weren't addressed, but waved it off. Ah, yes, seats for 5 please. Kimiko asked while the waiter immediately nodded before getting 5 menus. He then led the 5 women to a booth with a window. The waiter left only to be replaced with a good-looking woman. She looked to be in her early 20s. She had black hair tied in a ponytail, black apron on, white t-shirt, and blue jean pants. She wore a pair of black tennis shoes and also sported a $1 million smile. What may I get you girls? She asked with a smile as she pulled out a notepad and pen. Soda, Ino responded. Soda, Kimiko said. Water, Hinata chimed. Soda, Sasuko said. Water, Hana voiced her option. Alright, I'll be back in just a minute, she smiled as she flipped down her notepad. So what do you guys want to talk about? Hana said as she intertwined her fingers and put her elbows on the table. How about boys? Ino said with a grin making Hinata eat. Alright then, which boy, Ino-chan? Kimiko grinned just as the waitress returned with their drinks before scurrying off to tend to other customers. How about your hot eye of a brother, Kimiko-chan? Ino grinned again while Hana, Sasuko, and Kimiko herself did a spit take. Hinata just eeped again as she sunk into the seat. What? Kimiko asked with a blush. Oh come on, you know your brother's hot, Ino grinned. Hana-chan, you think he's hot, right? Ino asked the blushing Inyazuka. She does have me there, Kimiko-chan, Hana said sheepishly. What about you, Hinata-chan? Ino asked the heiress. He is very attractive, Kimiko-chan, she said to Kimiko. Sasuko-chan? Ino chimed. Of course not. She declined adamantly with a blush. I'll take that as a yes so, Kimiko-chan, do you think your brother's hot? She asked the red-haired Kunoichi. Kimiko blushed crimson and looked at her friends before sinking her seat only for the blush to intensify. Yes, he's pretty hot, I guess, she responded to the Yamanaka heiress. I knew it, you have a crush on your brother. Ino laughed heartily. Kimiko grumbled as her face threatened to turn into a tomato. Speaking of hot brothers, there he is now, Ino said as she saw Naruto enter the restaurant before sitting in a booth by himself, just as the waitress from earlier walked up to him. She flipped open her notepad before writing something in it. She then ripped it off and put it right in front of Naruto. They saw him smirk. Meet me at that address at 9, Kimiko heard the waitress say to him before she resumed her normal job of taking orders. What did you guys think, she said to him? Ino asked as she looked at Naruto looking at the menu. Kimiko felt a bit of jealousy rise up in the pit of her stomach as she remembered the waitress. She slipped him a piece of paper with her address on it and said to meet her there at 9, Kimiko responded as she gained a frown and put her elbow on the table. Wow, what a whore, Sasuko muttered as she watched Naruto out of the corner of her eye. Tell me about it, Kimiko responded as she traced her finger on the top of the glass she had. So then let's follow him then, Hana said, making Ino cackle, and for Sasuko, Kimiko, and Hinata to sputter. Great. We'll go to the Saratobi residence and wait for him there before following him, Hana grinned. But Naruto, he had just pocketed the paper before ordering water to drink. He was frustrated and normally didn't go to the women's houses when they invited him, but he'd go. He had a bit left in him and Suzume surprisingly didn't satisfy him. She and he both knew that it was just a casual thing, but neither really cared. He was very aware of Kimiko and her friends whispering about him, but he didn't care. He had slept with a number of women, unknown to him just like his real self, including the Nara clan's head's wife, Yoshino, a few civilians, and a couple Kunoichi here and there. Naruto really didn't go to them, they came to him. Yoshino explained to him that her husband hadn't been meeting her needs lately and explained that it was just a one, maybe two-time thing, and now they meet every other week. A male waiter came back this time to take his food order. He ordered their special which consisted of barbecue ribs with a salad on the side. Naruto closed his eyes, but opened them as he sensed a low-cage chakra source entering the establishment. He opened them to see none other than Ise Uchiha making her way over to his booth. She now wore a black loose long-sleeve V-neck shirt with a fishnet mesh underneath it. The V-neck did show her large and very ample cleavage sitting at low D cups. She had tape going from her wrists up to her mid-forearm and black fingerless gloves on. She also wore a pair of somewhat baggy black pants with tape going from ankle to mid-shin. Her shoes, she wore a pair of black shinobi sandals and often painted her toenails and fingernails black. At her hip sat a katana with a golden hilt guard, black sheath and red hilt. If she were to draw it, it would have been completely hollow along the length of it with a silver blade. She had a beautiful complexion with charcoal eyes, long black hair that fell to just below her shoulder blades, and her beautiful heart-shaped face. Her Konoha forehead protector was situated round her neck. "May I have a seat?" she asked as she stood in front of his booth. She looked at him with his fingers intertwined and elbows on the table, his chin resting on his fingers. He looked more aged than he should have been, in the mental sense, and somewhat in the physical sense given his height and body build. "You may, Uchiha-san," he said, not even looking at her when he spoke. He simply gazed out the window as she sat there with her katana now resting in her lap and one hand cupping the other on the table. "How may I help you today?" he asked her plainly, still not looking at her. "I know you have the Sharingan," she told him, hoping to get at least a reaction out of him. She didn't even get a batted eyelash. "And I know you have the Manjikyu," he responded to her, making her once neutral eyes widen slightly. "I do some spying of my own." "You need to work on your sensing skills or I'm just getting that good," he told her impassively as he continued to look out the window. "When did you get the Sharingan?" she asked him after a while. "The night when I disappeared," he told her. "Yes, the emotional trauma would have caused that. Does your family have any Uchiha relatives?" she asked him. "That was the first thing I did when I got back from the Forest of Death. Minato was given up at an orphanage at the age of 1, so it is likely either my paternal grandmother or grandfather was an Uchiha and then he or she sealed his Sharingan. Kushina is out of the question, as her listed relatives go back generations," he quickly deduced. "He is quite the genius, as I came to the same conclusion," Ise thought. She looked at Naruto. "Are you going to tell anyone?" he asked her. "No, I am not. Would it bother you if I did?" Ise responded, hoping to get a glimpse of emotion other than impassiveness. "It would be quite annoying to have questions and for Sasuke-san to bother me seeing how mine is if fully matured. My father would probably do blood work and compare it to an Uchiha's. They would likely see similarities and he would deduce that his mother or father sealed his Sharingan and would work to remove the seals," Naruto said as peered into the surprised eyes of Insane. "He truly is a genius," she trailed off. "If that is all, my meal is here," he told her, making her nod her head. "Good day, Naruto-kun," she said as he spared her a glance before he began to eat. She sighed internally as she walked out of the restaurant. "With Kimiko, why was your sister over there, Sasuke-chan?" Ino asked about eating Uchiha. "She talks to Naruto every now and then, so it isn't strange." "You have any idea what they were talking about, Kimiko-chan?" "She looked pretty serious," Sasuke asked the eating redhead. Kimiko shook her head no, making Sasuke suck her teeth in annoyance. "It's not our business to know anyways," Kimiko said innocently while Hana, Ino and Sasuke gave her deadpan expressions. "You did listen in on him when the waitress was talking to him, Kimiko-chan," Hinata told her, making her whistle innocently. "Kimiko-chan's jealous." Ino cackled, making Kimiko spit her food onto Sasuke. The former gained a sheepish expression as the latter's eye twitched. Hana howled in laughter while Ino cackled madly with Hinata giggling slightly. Sorry," Kimiko said as she rubbed the back of her head. One day later, "Are we there yet?" Kusamu complained as she, Naruto, Mei and the newly arrived White Zetsu walked along the path. "Yeah, are we there yet?" Mei pouted. "Does the goddamn map say we're there yet?" "No." "Now shut up," White Zetsu shouted as Kusamu and Mai gained sheepish expressions. Zetsu looked back at the close-eyed and cross-armed Naruto before chuckling sheepishly. "Sorry, Naruto-sama," he chuckled. "I guess they don't know how far away Yugakure is," he said. Naruto merely spared him a glance before closing his eyes. He then looked back at the smiling and laughing Kisame and Mai. He sighed internally. It was going to be a long walk. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.